Welcome to the Shadoe Davis Show, folks, you guys. It's, Thursday, May the 27th, 2027, and there's Tamara. There's our girl.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, Shadoe. It's so good to see you again.
It's nice to see you, too. It's been a long time. Since the last time we saw each other was at the Ostrich Farm last year.
Yes.
Where you guys played a set or two, I think. And then before that, you were here on your way to Ottawa, driving from Alberta to Ottawa for the court dates. And
yes,
then you got your sentence, and people were upset and frustrated. But you know what? I want to go back and I want to ask you, I mean, we got all kinds of things we can talk about tonight, you
That's
and
right.
I. But I want to ask you in that moment, because this is something I've never asked you before in all the time. In the moment, and I'm going to play the moment right here before I'll put your Give, Send, Go up right now. There it is. This is the Give, Send, Go created by Tamara, you guys, to fight, to sue. And you've got a long list here. I guess it would be easier to mention the people you're not suing. But we'll get to the My Stand Against Malicious Prosecution in a second, because people, those who haven't seen this yet, they're going to need to know what this is all about. And you're already at $75,154 of $100,000. And I believe that's only just to start with, right? Because if this is a successful lawsuit, you're going to need more, and it's going to stretch over a period of time. These two photos that are up here on your Give, Send, Go. This one here was with you incarcerated, the one wearing the mask. Am I right?
Yeah, that's a court sketch, actually. That's a court sketch
real?
from, no, that's not even a real one. The one where I'm sitting there with the mask on, that was a court sketch for one of my hearings for the bail, or for the breach, the alleged breach that I was in there for.
Oh, right. When they came all the way from Ottawa, the Ottawa police came all the way from Ottawa to Medicine Hat to get you. Or, and then drag you back on the plane, right?
Yeah.
But this other one,
Shadoe, I gotta say that I'm so thrilled that I Love Canadian Oil and Gas hoodie is going to be in court sketchbooks for all time.
This other picture, this one of you being arrested, I've got the video for this. I just pulled it down like 15 minutes ago. I thought we've got to be able to put this up, because this was a heart-wrenching moment for so many Canadians. Here it is, guys.
Sean, I'm not here to arrest you, Sean.
Well, you will be.
It's me.
What's that?
Because I'm right next there.
If you're going to take her, you got to take me.
You have to. This is Danny Bulford. And I'm Sean Dyson. We are just as much as
gentlemen, don't hear.
You guys know you're going on social media, right?
Yeah, I got you.
Have a good night.
Oh,
Enjoy yourself.
we'll see you soon, Tamara.
Hold the line.
I have to compliment you on your calmness in that situation. You were being cut. Had you ever had an interaction like that with police before?
No, I've never been arrested before. Never.
So they walk up to you in the street, and you're walking with Danny Bulford and was it Barber?
No.
Tom?
Already in jail. He had already been arrested. So I was with Danny Bulford, one of the road captains, Sean Tyson, and Johnny, the fuel guy, Johnny Scooby.
And so they didn't go for any of the others in that moment. They just came for you. And I remember watching that live. I was watching that live. I think there was, I'm not exactly sure whose feed that is that we just watched, because there were so many people with so many devices down there. But
that was Johnny.
That was Johnny?
Yeah, it was Johnny's footage,
And I'm watching that, Tamara, and I'm like, whoa. And there's like the comments were going crazy. You were calm. It was such a surreal moment. And that was the beginning for you, was it not?
Well, the beginning of the next chapter, for sure. The beginning of a chapter of lawfare that I never could have foreseen. Now, we were anticipating that we could be arrested, and of course, Chris Barber had already been arrested. But we'd had meetings about this with everyone too, and the former law enforcement people that were with us there in Ottawa, explained the process. You'll be arrested. Don't resist, give them your name, and, you'll sign a recog and be out in a few hours. This, that's actually how it works. You just go in and you sign a promise to appear or a recognizance, and off you go, because it was mischief. It was as a
recog. I like when you're using the terminology now because you've been immersed in it for so long. I'm going, recog. What the hell's a recog?
A recognizance, yes. Where was I with that? Anyways,
you were talking about signing something and they let you go, but in this case, that wasn't.
Yes, that's right. And then in my case, obviously, that didn't happen. I ended up spending 18 days in jail that time. Yeah. So
this is the beginnings of the malicious. You can't really say prosecution at that point because you weren't being prosecuted yet. But to me, like, that moment was the beginning for you,
yes,
and probably for many others as well, because there were a lot of people arrested. Some not as high profile, as you mentioned. Chris was already arrested, and you've been fighting it ever since. Now you're paying this ridiculous price. You're under house arrest. This has been going on. How long has this been now? Because my timeline is all screwed up.
Of course. Well, how could it not be? Because it's been forever. This is going on 4.5 years since the Freedom Convoy and since my arrest in Ottawa. So 4.5 years later, we're still dealing with mischief, which is actually unheard of anywheres. A mischief is a summary offense, a misdemeanor, they would call it in the United States. It's not a crime of moral turpitude. So that means even with this on my criminal record, I'll still be able to cross the border, because it's not a big deal. It's like spray painting your neighbor's fence, basically, or a public fence. So I never could have anticipated in that moment that, they were going to put me in solitary confinement, that I was going to be repeatedly strip searched, that I was going to, when they did my intake that night, I actually had one moment where I felt afraid. And that was when the nurses came during the intake and asked if I was vaccinated. And of course I said no. And I thought they were going to force vaccinate me, because here I am in a government run facility, all of that. And I actually had a moment where I thought they're going to make me get vaccinated. And then the nurse said, "Do you want to be?" And I said, "No." And then they asked if I wanted to take a test. And I said, "No, thank you. I'm not sick." And the girl beside me said, "I thought you might say that." And she had kind of a little smile on her face.
It's unbelievable to me that. Could they have done that? Would that have been something legal? Have you looked into that at all?
I haven't. I don't know if they could do that, but I mean, they did a lot of things, in my opinion, during those times and the previous 2 years that should be considered illegal, for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, so, I mean, they didn't care whether anything was legal or not back then. They just did it and thought, well, we'll just pay the piper later. And of course, they never have to pay any pipers. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing. The onus is always on us to go back on them, which leads me to, I guess I could call it your current project. You know what? Before we get to that, because I want to get to that later on. And by the way, you guys, givesendgo.com, and then it's my stand against malicious prosecution. We'll put that up in all the comment sections of all the platforms that we're on tonight, so you guys can go ahead and make a contribution to help Tamara get this thing going. But going back, I said to you last week, Tamara, aren't you sick of all the court stuff? I mean, you've been involved in the courts in one way or another, off and on, for the last 4.5 years. And when you weren't in court, you were at some hearing. You went to Ottawa specifically to go to the Commission on the Emergencies Act. I mean, haven't you had enough of this stuff? Don't you want to go back to a semi-charmed kind of a life at some point?
Well, I mean, ideally, obviously, that would be great. But the reality of my situation is that with all the lawsuits and
You're right.
everything, I'm really looking at spending the majority of the rest of my life in a courtroom in some fashion. When you think about, I'm 53 years old. I'll be 54 this fall. And these things take a lot of time, a lot of time. And so, Chris and I have both kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that we will be in courtrooms for years and years to come, at least for the next decade, at a bare minimum.
This whole Zexi Lee thing, this whole lawsuit, I thought that was going to be thrown out because Paul Champ made a mistake.
I think it probably will be at some point. I mean, obviously they're going to fight it, and I guess the troubling thing about this, Shadoe, is that we're dealing with a justice system that is not unbiased. We know that there's a lot of judges in the East, specifically in Ottawa and Toronto, that really despise anything to do with the Freedom Convoy. But because of the way that broke down, it was a secret agreement that was signed between Paul Champ's, his plaintiffs, and one of the defendants in order to have him removed from the lawsuit. Now, typically speaking, the precedent for this is that, as soon as you sign a settlement agreement like that, you would have to disclose it immediately to all parties, because if we didn't know, this person could have been sitting in on our meetings and taking intel back to the other team and all of that sort of stuff. So I think there's a really good chance that it's going to get knocked out. And honestly, that lawsuit has never caused me a minute of stress. I just thought from the day that we found out about it on the streets of Ottawa that it was just a bunch of nonsense. And I'll tell you why. Because we had $10 million in donations in the bank. All of a sudden, we're getting faced with a $10 million lawsuit. Okay, well, now it's $290 million. And there's no realm of possibility. Come at me for $290 million. I have nothing. I have nothing that these people can take from me. So, I think it's all nonsense. And I think $290 million for nuisance is a bit over the top. So I think he got a bit too greedy. Yeah. And don't forget, he still has a whole donor class that he's trying to have certified. So in this particular case, Paul Champ is trying to have a donor class added to the bank account or to the lawsuit so that he can go after the donors too. So regardless of what you think about the Freedom Convoy, imagine the precedent that's going to set going forward for anything, any type of crowdfunding, anything that you donate to, basically saying that if you donated $50 to the convoy, then you contributed to the nuisance and therefore you're liable. So that sets a very dangerous precedent for people going forward that want to donate their own money to causes that they wish to support.
Freedom Convoy was never found to be illegal, though. I mean, this is the whole thing that people seem to forget. I want to look at the Give, Send, Go here, and you use Give, Send, Go, and you give the reason why at the bottom of this, which I thought was absolutely beautiful. Oh, and by the way, I haven't said yet, happy anniversary, Tamara.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And happy birthday to your, is it your grandson or your granddaughter today?
For Sierra, yeah. My middle daughter today, and yesterday was my oldest daughter. So yeah, it's birthday season here.
All right, here it is. My stand against malicious prosecutions by Tamara Lich. Over 4 years have passed since my participation in the most peaceful and polite protest of all time, the Canadian Freedom Convoy. It's been over 4 years since Chris Barber and I were arrested on the streets of Ottawa, mere days following the unconstitutional, and unlawful invocation of the Emergencies Act by the Liberal government. The invocation saw bank accounts frozen, insurance policies suspended, the forceful, violent removal of peaceful Canadians and truckers, and supporters arrested. For our part, Chris and I endured the longest mischief trial in the history of the Commonwealth. The Crown prosecutor, and I love one of the people you're suing here, by the way. We're going to get to that. I think it's hilarious. The Crown prosecutor made repeated attempts to charge me with a breach of conditions violation and remanded to custody until trial. And on one occasion, he was successful. Chris and I convicted in April of 2025 of mischief and sentenced October 7th, 2025 to 18 months of house arrest. Granted some time served, my sentence will conclude January 21st of next year. I have secured the services of a civil litigation lawyer from Toronto based Loopstra Nixon. Now, did you have to go, I'm going to get back to this in a second. Did you have to go searching hard for a lawyer that you thought was good enough to go through with this case? Are people still avoiding you because of who you are? Law firms and people alike? Like, how is it for you in that regard?
It was difficult. And it just so happens that I have a lot of lawyers in my life now that know other lawyers. Otherwise, I don't know. This gentleman was very highly recommended to me. And so we had a meeting, of course, and it went really well. However, even his firm,
Oh no, she's frozen up.
Take my case. Oh no.
Hang on. You froze up for a second, like 5 seconds ago. So go back 5 seconds and start from there.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I was just saying I met I met with the lawyer and the team, and it was going to work out great, but it still took his firm 3 weeks to give an answer as to whether or not they would let him take my case.
Their concerns were what? That they would get bad press?
The political nature of this case, which is really a terrible thing to even say, but it's true. I mean, I actually, in the retainer letter that I signed, had to agree that if they needed to hire a PR person to manage any backlash, that I would be responsible for those costs.
You're kidding me.
So, no, I'm not kidding you.
I'll do the PR. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'll charge you nothing.
Thank you.
Loubster Nixon launched this lawsuit against the Ottawa Police Service. Now, this is great. The Ottawa Police Services Board. What's the differentiation there?
Well, there was a lot of things that were happening behind the scenes with the board that were going on there. As you very well know, former Chief Slowly resigned or was forced out. So they had they definitely had their fingers involved in a lot of this stuff and how the police dealt with us too. So I think you remember Diane Deans, who I'm sorry that she passed away from cancer, but I'm also sorry that I didn't get a chance to sue her yet before that happened. And
you're so nice, even when you're not.
I know. I don't wish her any ill will. It's I feel terrible that she passed away, but still, she was the lady that got on during the Freedom Convoy. This is the chair of the Police Services Board. And there's a funny clip out there of her talking about all these terrible things that we're doing. And, we're hooligans and thugs. And she's, describing all these terrible things that we're doing with a side clip that's showing bouncy castles and, people playing music in the streets and children playing. It was just over the top, absolutely over the top. They definitely have a part to play in this. So I'm going after the board as well, because they make a lot of key decisions back there and behind the scenes too.
The Attorney General of Ontario, the original Crown prosecutor on the file, I forget his name, Karimji or something?
Yeah, Moise Karimji.
Right.
We call him Moist Cringy.
He seemed to have a particular vendetta against you and Chris and everybody involved, I think. Did he not? You could tell. You can't say for sure because, you can't.
Oh, no, you can. You can, because it was pretty obvious. And as someone who had never been introduced to the criminal process like this, as my first experience, I was shocked at how this man was talking about me, the things that he was saying in court, describing me as a danger to society. And, if they let me out on the streets, all hell would break loose. I mean, it was just completely over the top. And
Wow.
And shortly after my book came out, he was yanked off of my case, because if you've read my book, you can see that this guy's clearly a moron. It just over the top, emotional. And that's the thing. If you're a Crown prosecutor, you don't get the luxury of emotions and having an opinion.
Right. And yet there he was. So that's the Crown prosecutor. 2 Ottawa Police Services detectives. These are the ones we discussed before, the ones that flew all the way from Ottawa to Medicine Hat to get you and then back. Those are the guys?
Yes.
Now, from what I read, and I'm not going to defend these guys, but they were assigned to do that and they weren't very happy about it.
Well, I can't imagine that they would be. You're talking about 2 homicide detectives assigned to a mischief case. So my first question is, who did they upset to get put in that? Or
Right.
was it simply, I asked my lawyer about that. Or actually, she brought it up that night that I was arrested, because of course I had a phone call with her. And I remember her telling me that she sounded incredulous. She's like, they assigned a homicide detective to your case. And we were both sort of dumbfounded. And I said, well, why do you think that they would do that, Diane? And she said, well, he's a great big guy, very intimidating. And he is. Detective Benson is a very big man. And it's for intimidation purposes. And I just laughed. Like, I literally just drove across the country with all these big, scary truckers. You think some homicide detective in a bad suit's going to scare me?
Right. I mean, and still, how tall are you? You're 5 feet tall, right?
5'0", yes. Yeah.
So you could, somebody 5'6" could probably do the intimidation job if that's what they wanted on you. But that's absolutely ridiculous to begin with. I mean, the whole thing is stupid. But the last one here, Tamara, you're suing His Majesty the King in right of Ontario for malicious prosecution and negligent investigation. The King? That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's part of the whole process. And since he's sort of our monarch, I guess I get to include him in this too. Yep.
My goal, you say, is to ensure transparency, accountability, and justice are brought to those involved in decisions and actions leading to the unprecedented treatment I was subjected to. Will never happen again to another Canadian. That is absolutely amazing. Because, oh, hang on, background. I guess everybody knows the background, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
The no contact order that was violated actually wasn't violated, but they say it was because of Karimji, right? Didn't he see a picture of you standing without your lawyer and next to Tom Marazzo, and that's what compelled them to sick those Ottawa police on you, I think, right?
Yeah, the most important part of this piece here is where it's, I say in here, they came, they arrested me, they yanked me off the street, they flew me to Ottawa over this photo, and nobody even called me. Nobody even called my lawyer. Nobody even contacted the Justice Center to find out what actually took place. John Carpe took the photo. Beside Tom Marazzo, cut off from the photo, was one of our lawyers, had him. So, I mean, we were surrounded by lawyers, but rather, nobody even made a phone call to find out what the circumstances were. The Crown Prosecutor, for the first time ever, issued a Canada-wide warrant for my arrest on a mischief. That treatment is only reserved for the worst criminals in Canada, murderers, rapists, and that had never been done before for something like this.
Well, you know what? I find it ridiculous. As you say, it's a mischief. And there's, as you say, murderers and rapists out there who get released on recog, and you get held in jail. That's insane. But what you say here, I find funny, because even after everything you'd been through, you assumed that it was a random stop.
Yeah, I did, of course, right?
Think that you're going to be stopped randomly. You're Tamara Lich, man. You're like public enemy number one. They're going to stop you for anything. She spit on the sidewalk. Right? They're going to look at you for every little. Have you felt that way? Have you felt like you're under a microscope ever since that day, or ever since the beginning of all of this?
Yes. I mean, sometimes I forget, and sometimes I need to be reminded that I am under a microscope. And honestly, Shadoe, I started, there's a couple that are making a movie about all of this. And so I've obviously been working with a lady and talking. It's just a lot of talking right now, talking about my history, my story, the convoy. And I didn't realize until that conversation how bad that first year was, because I was just getting through it. But the first year that after I was released in March of 2022, that whole year, I mean, that Crown Prosecutor tried 6 ways from Sunday to throw me back in jail. He tried to throw me in jail over this pendant. I've talked about that before too. That was a gift for me. As a matter of fact,
I don't know that story. What is that story, that pendant?
Well, I'll give you the short story. So after I got out of jail, a lot of people sent me mail. They set up a post office box for me, and a lot of people sent me mail. And a lady from Thailand sent me this piece of jewelry and a beautiful letter saying she hadn't seen her kids in 2 years because she was stuck in Thailand because of the pandemic. And she made this, and she really believed in our cause. And she sent me a lovely email that said, you're like my brand ambassador. I want to donate proceeds of this pendant, all the sales, to the truckers. And she asked for a photo. And so anyone that left me an address or a phone number, I would try to call or, send a text or write back and say, thank you very much. And so she said she left her number. So I texted her. Or maybe it was her email address. I apologize. It was her email address. So I sent her an email and I said, thank you so much. I took a picture. I said, I love it. I will never take it off. And then she replied and asked me if she could put it on social media. And remember, I was banned from social media for 2 years. My condition said you are not to log in. You're not to log in, post, or have others post on your behalf to any of your social media accounts. And I told her that. I said, I cannot advise you one way or the other to post it on social media because I'm on conditions. I said, I will tell you that lots of people have taken pictures with me and posted it on their social media, but I said, I can't advise you either way. Pardon me. So anyways, she puts a picture out on Facebook. The Crown prosecutor gets of my picture of me doing this with a thing that says posted with permission. So this ties into the breach, actually. So in the previous month, May of 2022, I also had a condition that I was banned from the province of Ottawa. So in order for me to attend the award ceremony in Toronto, we had to go before a judge and ask for that order to be changed so that I could get into Ottawa or Ontario to go. So that hearing is when the prosecutor, Moise Karimji, brought this up, and we had to do a whole new bail hearing because he wanted me incarcerated over the posted with permission brand ambassador. And it was a 2-day hearing. And I think you probably will remember that was the hearing where he told the judge, the superior court judge, that he should recuse himself from our bail hearing. And then we came back and the judge told him to take a timeout. So it got a little bit heated. Anyways, so I won, obviously, didn't go back to jail. I was let back into Ontario, just not the red zone in Ottawa. So that's just another example of them trying to throw me in jail. So then a month later, I go to Toronto, got permission from the judge, and then it all still happened anyways. But it shows you how vehemently this guy wanted us in jail.
Yeah. So, my question is, whenever anybody tries to prove intent, and you've already given, 2 or 3 great examples so far in our conversation, which has only been 26 minutes of, intent, malicious intent. These people wanted to see you personally, and probably Chris and maybe Pat King, taken down to make an example of you. But is there any, and I don't want you to give your entire defensive strategy or offensive strategy away here, and I'm not sure if you've even been discussing it yet, but how are you going to actually prove that? Do you have documentation? Do you have emails? Can you go ahead and make sure you get that kind of stuff from these people because of this court case?
Well, part of the process will be disclosure. So we will be seeking disclosure to find out who made these decisions and the timeline that they were made in, obviously, and the conversations that were happening behind the scenes. Remember, a Canada-wide arrest warrant was issued for my arrest over a potential breach of a mischief. Yeah. There's more than one person that makes that decision. So
and these are, now when we talk about Crown prosecutors, a lot of people assume that it's federal, right? Like you guys were in federal court. You were in Ontario court, which is different. It's not right, federal. Court. So, Ontario court, is there ever any chance that you could have gone to the Supreme Court of Canada to continue fighting this before we talk about your lawsuit here? I mean, this particular sentence that you're serving right now. Did you feel like maybe we can go and challenge this ruling?
Well, we did. I'm appealing my conviction. Chris is appealing, I believe, his conviction also. And the Crown prosecutors are appealing both our acquittals, because we were acquitted on the intimidation charges. And they're also appealing our sentence because they want Chris in jail for 8 years and me in jail for 7 years. And as a matter of fact, I believe Pat just had his hearing a couple of weeks ago and they want him in jail for 5 years.
So they still want this. So yes, that proves the malicious intent right there. Obviously, yes. If it's the same people making these decisions too, that's the other thing. The chain needs to be unbroken from then to now, right? So I wonder, I mean, you've probably done some investigation on this. Would it be cabinet ministers, Ontario cabinet ministers making these decisions in consultation with federal cabinet ministers? Would it be just through the Department of Justice? I mean, how do you even begin to search for who was making the final call on all of these things?
Well, that's what we're going to find out. And that's what we're going to find out through disclosure. And that's also why the Attorney General of Ontario is included in this case. And without a doubt, they were getting pressured from the Canadian government, whether that was members of parliament or whether that was the Department of Justice itself. I would assume it had something to do with the Attorney General of Canada also, who was David Lametti at that time, don't forget.
Right.
So I would be surprised if there wasn't some pressure coming down from the federal government on this. There was definitely pressure coming from the Attorney General's Office of Ontario. Don't forget, they're the ones that seized all the donations that are still sitting in an escrow account, and they are going to probably take that money. So, yeah,
They could just
I
take
think it's
it?
yeah. Basically, what we found out is that the deal is if Paul Champ wins his civil suit, then he'll probably get that money. But if he doesn't win that, then it's going to go to the Attorney General of Ontario. Basically, all they needed to get their hands on it, the Attorney General, was one conviction, which they got, months before even Chris and I. The first conviction was probably enough to
Like
have
over a
them seize it.
stupid conviction like the one you got, like for the mischief. That makes absolutely zero sense to me that they could take $10 million in donations. But then again, I mean, what if it was returned, let's just say, to the organizers? What could you possibly do with that money? Would you return it to the people, or would you give it to
I
charity, or like what?
pray to God that I never see it, honestly. I can't even imagine. Now, I have all the registration forms. I still have all the registration forms that we collected in Ottawa, just in case, because it was donated money for a specific purpose. So you can't, I would have to talk to Give, Send, Go if that ever happened. To find out, if we could just donate it to a veterans organization or something like that, because I mean, it'll have been years and years. But I honestly don't think we'll ever see it, and I hope I never have to touch it. Honestly,
I can't even imagine,
Um,
because I know that people have been screaming about it for the last few years, and there was allegations that you had somehow you and Chris had somehow absconded with this money, but no, it's been in that escrow account ever since. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, 3.4 million of the donations for our campaign are in there. There's Bitcoin in there, I believe, too. They seized, and then also the Adopt a Trucker money. I think that was $400,000 or $500,000. So there was about just over 5 million all told that they seized. As you remember, GoFundMe ended up refunding all of those donations, the 10 million, and then Give, Send, Go refunded all of the donations except the ones that were coming through the payment processor Stripe.
Right. Right. So,
Yeah.
to me, it's like, how is this not stealing? Like what
It
the
is
government,
stealing.
it's completely stealing, right? I mean, like
It's
they're just
totally
taking
stealing.
people's money. It's
Yeah.
outrageous. Anyway, let's continue on with your Give, Send, Go here. I
Yeah.
was facing a nonviolent mischief charge. Mischief is a summary offense in Canada, generally dealt with through fines or probation, especially for a first-time offender. In a move reserved, I love this line. In a move reserved for violent murderers, sexual offenders, and drug traffickers, the Ottawa Crown Prosecutor issued a Canada-wide warrant for my arrest, the first of its kind, for allegations of breach of conditions for a mischief charge. I was taken into custody. Now, this is where you spent, was it 48 days this time?
30 days in jail.
30.
Yep.
Right. 'Cause,
Yeah.
there was the combined. I'm combining them here.
Yeah.
So you were taken into custody, flown back to Ottawa in leg shackles. You were in leg shackles on the plane.
Yes, I was. Actually,
Of course,
they
the
wheeled
big
me
burly
in.
cop needed to do that to you, right? 5 feet tall.
But the funniest part, Shadoe, is that they get me to the airport and they bring a wheelchair out. I'm like, what the hell's the wheelchair for? So I get in the wheelchair. They put leg shackles on me and handcuff me, put me in this wheelchair, wheel me into the cells in the airport. And then when we went to leave, of course, they took everything off when I was in the cell. But when we went to go, they put my leg shackles back on. But they didn't put my handcuffs on to preserve my dignity while they wheeled me through the airport in leg shackles, you see. To preserve my dignity. Thank you for thinking about me, sir.
Preserve your dignity while wearing leg shackles. That's ridiculous. I mean, that's what's it, a 2.5, 3 hour flight? Calgary to Ottawa?
3 hours. Yeah, 3.5 hours. Yeah.
In leg shackles. Were you sitting next? Like, did you have any interaction with these cops on the aircraft? Were they sitting, like, were you in the middle of the three seats, that one on either side? Did you talk sports? Like, what were you guys talking about?
Well, I mean, it's the typical good cop, bad cop scenario. Detective Benson's really big and burly and not very talkative and not very friendly, which is fine. And I didn't really talk to him anyways, because I don't really care much for that man. But Sergeant Hassan was actually a lovely, lovely man. Now, I'm not stupid. I used to work for a police service, remember? So, I mean, I understand what's going on. I know that, what we can and can't talk about or whatever. And, but Sergeant Hassan, was actually fairly cheerful, and he let me have coffee, which I was so grateful for, because I knew that I wasn't going to have any real coffee for a very, very long time. But yeah, it was, they were sitting next to me, and they, had leg shackles on the entire time.
Denied bail by a justice of the peace, held in remand for 30 days. Dark days. Pretty dark, right?
Mm-hmm. Unpleasant.
What's it like in there? I have never been in a remand scenario. Not that I'm bragging about that, because it's quite possible I may end up. Me, I'm a.
There's lots of time. There's lots of hope for you left, Shadoe. No hope for you yet.
Right. I just want to measure up finally. 30 days in a place like this, combined with 18 before. Like, what is your day-to-day routine like? Like, do they wake you up in the morning? Do you have to be up at a certain time? Is there a dress code? Is like behavioral things that you don't know about? Like, do they give you a list of rules that you have to follow before your incarceration begins? What's it like?
Well, the second time that I was in jail, I still can't believe I have to say that, actually, but the second time I went, I was very grateful for the first time that I went, because I had a bit of an idea of how this stuff goes. You don't get a handbook when you go to jail. And so, I had to sort of learn a lot of things as I went. It is a deeply unpleasant place to be. That particular remand center is known throughout Canada for having some pretty wild human rights violations, which I can certainly attest to, as I saw. I saw some things in there that were unpleasant. And,
can you say what they are? Or no?
Well, there's a methadone program. So every day the girls would line up to go down and get their drugs from the government. And there was occasions where it was late. Or I watched one girl out that didn't get hers one day. And, I give this girl credit, because I mean, I've never done meth. I don't know, but I hear it's really terrible and the withdrawals are awful. And she sat on the top of her bed and just it took everything in her to not lose her mind, because she didn't get her methadone. There's just the searches. They'll come into your dorm. I mean, I kept a diary the second time I was in jail, but I was very careful about what I wrote, because they'll come into the dorms at any time, search all of your things under your mattresses, all of your belongings. And not only that, but the girls could do that too. So, and I tried the second time to not go to dorms. So the first time I was arrested, I was put in solitary confinement, went to cell block, then went to dorms, then I went home. This time there was no solitary confinement. I went straight to cell block when I was in cells, and then I moved to dorms. So you got to remember, dorms is like being in a great big room with 12 to 14 women. But the first
like these women
portion
are
of,
like some of them violent offenders, or some of them in for pretty hard stuff, right?
Yes, I was put in cell block with a Haitian Quebecer, a French lady. Sorry, she's from Ottawa, but she'd moved from Haiti to Quebec and then to Ottawa. She was 6 months pregnant. She was a drug addict. She was a schizophrenic. She made advances at me one day when we got back from court, and the other girl that was in our cell hadn't come back yet into our cell. Let me explain this to you better.
Yes.
So I'm put in cells. I get there. I'm put in cells. I think it was Canada Day. I'm put in cells with this girl. The next day, they throw another girl into our cell because this place is overcrowded. So this third girl comes in and has a little mat on the floor with a blanket in a tiny little cell. And she was also a schizophrenic and had some serious problems. And one example I'll give you is that after you eat every meal, 20 minutes later, the guards come and you put your garbage out the door, out the little window. Because if you keep it in there, obviously you're going to get bugs. Well, she would never throw her garbage out because she thought she was getting energy and messages from her garbage, from her food garbage. So that got a little bit dicey because we had to get it out of there. But, they would have epic meltdowns. They would be screaming. And in this particular instance, we had a court date. So Christy and I went to court. And it's not a pleasant day when you go to court. You go early with everyone, and you can sit there all day. If your appearance is at 3:00 in the afternoon, you're there at 7:30 in the morning, and you sit in a bullpen or a cell all day. No books, nothing.
What's the bullpen
so we get,
like? Is it just a room?
it's just a great big cell for like a lot of people. It's called the bullpen. I don't know. Yeah, look at all the terminology I'm picking up. I mean, if I go back a third time, I've got this licked.
Like for me, a bullpen is like baseball, right? So
yeah, right, of course.
You got jail bullpen. Anyway, please.
So, anyways, we had court that day. I walked back into the cell. They kept Christy back for whatever reason, and every time we come back in, I have to be strip searched. I got to go through an X-ray machine. They have to strip search me. Like lift up your hair, stick your tongue out, lift up your breasts, bend down and squat. With a mask on, of course, because that's how that goes. That was the first time anyhow. And then I walked back into my cell, and then she just started saying things to me like, she was pregnant, and if the other cellmate doesn't come back, she started alluding to things that she was going to do, and it was just it was awful. So
you must
thankfully,
have been scared to go to sleep at night.
Well, sometimes it was a bit dicey. They were very mentally unstable ladies, for sure. And yeah, it was dicey sometimes.
Were you
Screaming,
recognized in there? I mean, you weren't in isolation all the time, as you pointed out. So you were in, I guess, a general population scenario. Were you recognized for the Freedom Convoy? Did people know who you were, or were you able to keep a lower profile?
Well, when I was in there the first time, when I finally got into dorms, it was funny because I was sitting on top of my bunk and I heard these girls talking about it. And actually what they said, they were talking about the Freedom Convoy, and I heard them say something about, oh yeah, and I heard her boyfriend flew out on a private jet, and I started laughing because then I knew that they were talking about me. Anyways, they did shortly figure out who I was, and they were extremely supportive. Two of the girls that were in there were actually at the Freedom Convoy. One of them was picked up on a warrant outside of a Canadian Tire because she'd stopped there to go buy jerry cans and supplies to take down to the truckers.
Yeah, right. Wow.
But I did have a lot of support from a lot of the staff there too, which was pretty good.
You see, I find that surprising because generally speaking, there's a group think amongst whatever population of people are working in the same place, right? And if one person speaks out, Freedom Convoy is just nothing but a bunch of hooligans and thugs from all across the country, then, and if that person happens to be recognized as a leadership symbol, then they're all going to have to fall into line because they all want to be, included in the group, right? So I'm happy to hear that you got support in there. What about the second time though? Was it the same or different?
It was longer. There was no solitary confinement that time, which I was actually begging for. Like I was saying earlier, when it was time for me to move to dorms, I actually asked how I could just stay in my cell because I didn't want to go in there and be with, it's not that it's just 14 women in one room, drug addicts, prostitutes, violent criminals, repeat offenders, So
were you ever faced in a situation where one of them threatened you over, like, even if it was the smallest kind of a threat?
No.
Nothing like that?
No.
Like they never tried to take your stuff?
I was pretty
anything?
lucky that way. No. But I mean, the first time I was like literally bunking beside a lady that had stabbed her boyfriend to death. I mean, I'm like, what am I doing here?
Oh my God.
So, but they have a lot of sad stories, and they're just people. And there was times where it was really, something to behold. But they're just human beings, and they're not getting the resources and the help that they need. And some of the things, like I said, that really were the worst was when, in particular, one case, and this happened more than once, but there was a lady that comes in frequently, and she's got mental health problems, lots of drug problems. She's homeless, and so they put her in the padded room next to our cell, and she was yelling and screaming and kicking at the walls. And I just about started crying because the guards were taunting her, saying things like, well, we'll get you some if you stop this, or, you want to hit at this, you just have to stop yelling. And I was just thinking, like, that is torture. They were torturing this person. In my opinion, that's mental torture. When you have someone that's that addicted to drugs and you are, using something like that as a negotiating mechanism,
Wow.
or they were yelling back at her through the door and making fun of her. It was, there's good people in there and there's bad people in there. And I will tell you, one thing that I learned about corrections is that two types of people get into it. The ones that think that they're going to really make a difference to society and help people, and ones that were picked on in high school.
Right. Revenge of the nerds on steroids.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. I had Wycliffe on a couple of months ago and we were talking about the woke movement, and
Yes.
that's what I said. I said that this is just revenge of the nerds on steroids. I want to go back to your, well, I mean, it is, right? I mean, that's what these people are all about. They're not getting their way. They're the victim class. And now they've finally got some power and they're going to use it. They're going to put people like you and I on house arrest. This lawsuit has my name on it, you say here on the Give, Send, Go, but it's about so much more than me. And this is one thing I admire about you, Tamara, among the other, everything, is the fact that you've always maintained that it's not just about you. You are defending Canadians. Like, where does that come from inside of you? And have you ever thought, okay, you know what? I've done my bit. Somebody else can step up now.
Well, I'm in it now, Shadoe.
Oh, I know you are, and we're going to keep going
all
with
the way
that.
in it.
But I mean, I just like to have those thoughts, and I'll tell you why I ask. Because I'm not nowhere near as well known as you are. Let's just say I've been doing this for a long time, and some people know me, and there's a lot of pressure. There is a lot of pressure to keep going all the time, to find out what's going on, and then to be able to relate it. You've lived this. I mean, this has been since 2022, 4.5 years now. And you've given so much. I mean, and not just for you, like I've been saying, you helped the ostrich farm last year, for example, we talked about earlier. And you also helped Dan Hartman, and you've helped so many people in so many parts of the country because of that heart of yours. And you must have times where you're just sitting there going, okay, you know what? I've done everything I can do here, aside from what you're doing now. And that's why I was so surprised when I saw this. Do you hope and pray that more and more people start to realize and start standing up and speaking up? Because I'll tell you, it elates me when I see that.
Oh, definitely. And I think there's a lot of people that do want to, Shadoe. I don't think it's a fact that people aren't standing up. It's that they don't know how. They don't know what they can do anymore. And that was really, I was just in Ottawa a couple of weeks ago at a conservative networking convention, and like the air, in my opinion, has really come out of the conservative balloon. It was not a great atmosphere. I didn't feel whatsoever. And even in talking to people on the plane or in the airport or at the convention itself, we have a government that has a stolen majority. And okay, let me put it to you this way. Chris and I had a talk about this lawsuit. And I said, it's really surreal that I have to seek justice through the very institution that's perverting it, which is the justice system. So I have to go into their system to try and fight for justice, right? And make sure that this doesn't ever happen to another Canadian again. And it's exactly the same thing. I said to Chris, what else am I going to do? Am I going to organize a protest, or am I going to call my MP or send him a letter? People are feeling once again that they don't have any recourse to try and hold these politicians to account. Pierre Poilievre's speech was really uninspiring. We know that Trudeau's bad. We know that Carney's bad. We know the Liberals are bad. And we know that the Conservatives are going to fight. But number one, how are you going to fight? What are you going to do? They have a stolen majority. So you can have all the committees and all the meetings and all the votes in the whole entire world that you want. But what's your option?
Nothing.
And what was my second point? My second point is maybe people are just tired of fighting. Maybe we just want to live our lives and wish that stuff would stop and be rectified so that we didn't have to fight. It takes a lot of energy to fight.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just, there's people want accountability, and I think that's one reason why people have supported this campaign so much, because people are still feeling hopeless. We have the Emergencies Act still being under appealed, right? So that's got kicked down the road again. And people were anxious. They just want some justice. They just want some accountability, whether it's for the invocation of the Emergencies Act, whether it's for a liberal government that's cozying up to communist China, whether it's for what happened during the pandemic. Now, any sort of situation like the pandemic, especially a global one, following that, there would normally be inquiries and, investigations, because you would think they would really want to know, hey guys, like, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? And what are we going to do better next time? And they haven't even gotten that yet.
They're not ever going to. I mean, there's no way, because if there was an actual inquiry or investigation, these people would all be found to be complicit. I mean, they're trying to get closer in the United States, which I find amazing, right? Like, they're found out now that, well, actually it was made in a lab, and they did arrest one of Fauci's associates or advisors somewhere down the line. And they had a CIA whistleblower in a Senate committee a couple of weeks ago. And so they're inching closer to maybe some half-truths in the United States. But here in Canada, somehow people are still in the dark. I was talking about this on the show last night, Tamara. There's people who still are going for their booster shots, who believe that Mark Carney came from the Bank of England or the United Nations or Brookfield or wherever he was working. The last job I think it was Brookfield and the UN, as a matter of fact, as their special climate envoy. He came back to Canada because he felt like he wanted to fix it. So he gives up millions and millions of dollars, leaves that on the table to go be the Prime Minister of Canada for $400,000 a year. Like,
right.
Seriously?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So getting back to this conservative convention, you said the air wasn't great. Were people like depressed? Did they feel like, oh no, like we can't, like, what
they
was
were
the
really
deal?
happy to be there. I didn't think that was my first time. What other people told me is the attendance was way down. There were MPs that came out, of course, but they didn't really stay that long. Like, I just sort of thought, there'd be quite a few more conservative members of parliament sort of hanging around there. It's a networking conference. There was, very few vendors there. I mean, the panels were great. I really like the panels. Danielle Smith's speech was, for me, the highlight of the entire thing. Pierre Poilievre came out and he gave us just a typical speech, like fight, fight, fight. But it was just really, the atmosphere felt a little bit dejected. Now, I guess last year's was pre-election because it's normally held in April. So, they said that's probably part of the reason why last year's was so successful too, because they were getting ready for an election and there was lots of excitement. But all in all, it was just a really, it was a different atmosphere.
Had they already had the floor crossers, the Liberals?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's too. I mean, like, when we see that happen, it's such a kick in the gut, right? Like, you go, wow, man, like 5 of our people left us. Is it because of Poilievre, or what were they enticed with to go over to the Liberals? Like people like Marilyn Gladue, you never would have thought that somebody like that would ever cross the floor. How can they even look in the mirror, right? Like, can you imagine tomorrow morning waking up and going, you want to know what? I think that the Freedom Convoy was a complete scam and everybody there was a criminal. Like, all of a sudden, you've completely changed your worldview from one night to the next morning? I don't think so, right?
Exactly.
So how does that happen? Yet it did, and I can totally understand the mood of every conservative-minded person in the country would have been in the toilet after something like that.
Absolutely.
So when you say people don't know how to fight, like is it like they don't know what to do next?
Right. Well, every institution that they have been taught is there to protect them and protect their rights and protect their families is failing them. So in my case, it's the justice system. You should be able to get a hold of your MP and or talk to them. But I mean, what does that do? I mean, I don't sign petitions anymore. People are always circulating petitions, and unless it's a super, super important one. But I mean, what has a petition ever done? Like,
nothing.
Very rarely do they ever do anything. And I get putting your support behind something, but people want to see concrete action. They want to see some type of investigation happening into something. They want to be able to see, well, probably like me, I'd like to turn on the TV for question period and perhaps see two sides of the house sitting at a table solving problems instead of putting on the nonsense theatrics that taxpayers are paying for. I don't need to watch these guys stand in there every day and just try to out insult each other. I want to see you fix our homeless problem. I want to see you fix the immigration problem. I want to see you fix the drug problem. I want to see you fix our military. I want to see you fix the justice system. But they got to be in there talking and waving their hands around and just, trying to see who can come up with the funniest insult. That's insulting to Canadians.
It's insulting to all of us. How deep down the rabbit hole have you gone, Tamara? I know you've had a lot of time on your hands, maybe not recently, but you have had in the past few months. And there are some things that I talk about on my show when I go behind the paywall that are pretty deep. We talk about the agenda, obviously, the UN, and now, the Americans are talking about disclosure of the alien files and human alien hybrids and all of this stuff. And this is on the left-wing corporate media. I never say mainstream. Left-wing corporate media. Like, they're actually out there talking about this stuff. We've got new players in the game, Promethean Action, who are trying to illustrate the geopolitical strategies that are being played right now. The AI data centers are a problem. Like, how deep down the rabbit hole do you go?
I go pretty deep. I go pretty deep.
We're just gonna leave it at that. That's all we need. We can talk about it later if you want to. But
that's right.
Unless, of course,
I wasn't really, when people used to talk about the lizard people, my eyes sort of would glaze over. But now that the disclosure's coming out, I'm like, well, maybe there is lizard people. I don't know.
What's your life like at Rebel News? Are all those people really cool?
Oh, they're amazing. Absolutely. It's a great team that Ezra's got put together, and it's just been an absolute joy. And, one of the things I really love is, because I was such a super fan for so long, is just watching how, things break down behind the scenes. And it's just like a really well-oiled machine. And, these guys are really great, helping me. Obviously, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm not a journalist, but they've been very patient. They've been very helpful. There's always something going on. And as I mentioned to you before the show, one of the things that we're working on right now is a variation order to permit me to leave Canada for work. And it sounds like that's going to go through. So we'll know that in a couple days. But so there's some things down in the United States that we want to go and do. Of course, there's the Rebel News cruise that'll be coming up. So hopefully I'll be able to go on that too. It is a working cruise, obviously. So it's been a really great experience. I'm just so grateful that, Ezra gave me this opportunity. And, he texted me, Shadoe, from the courthouse we weren't even back to the hotel yet after we were sentenced. And Ezra Levant texted myself and my lawyer, and he said, don't worry, we will find something for Tamara so that she's not locked up in her house for the next 18 months.
Wow.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yes.
How often are you working? Like, are you working on single stories once every week or a couple of weeks?
Well, I'm just sort of getting into doing some more reporting, like at my desk. I have to do a lot of stuff at my desk. And so it's a process. Like, I give journalists a lot of credit. You just don't turn your camera on and start talking about stuff and then shut it off. Like, there's a lot of work that has to go into every report. And so definitely have a lot to learn. I just had a food bank report sort of drop today. It dropped today. That I had been working on. I've got the debate coming up. The debate footage should be coming out soon. I covered the Jason Kenney and Keith Wilson debate.
I wanted to ask you about that. Don't let me forget. I
won't.
Okay.
And then I was just in Saskatchewan covering the Saskatchewan Prosperity Project event there in Saskatoon on Saturday. So I'll have a bunch of those reports all dropping soon. So, and then of course the independents here in Alberta, those events and the ones in Saskatchewan, they're easy for me to go cover because they're all scheduled. So I'm on house arrest. So if I need an exemption, I have to always ask and make sure that I have what time we're leaving the house, where we're stopping to use the bathroom, where we're going to stop and get gas, where we're going to get lunch, when I got to be at the venue. I got to email her and let her know what room number I'm in once we check into the hotel. So there's a lot that goes into me just being able to go off of my property.
Do they monitor, Tamara? Do they monitor your communications?
Oh, for sure, I'm monitored. No, not they as in Medicine Hat, but an interesting piece of information I found out, Shadoe, that I think your listeners will be interested in is, if you recall, during the Freedom Convoy, there was a King Air plane that was flying over the protest, spying on Canadians. It was scraping all the data off of their phones, pictures, emails, phone numbers, text messages, Instagram, Facebook messages, anything that was on your phone, they have. They could also tell who was, within 10 feet of you on the ground. Where's that data? Who has that data? And are they still using that data? And we understand, I understand through some veteran friends of mine that is the case. They still have that data and they're still surveilling us.
And so this was all done through the military, or was it CSIS, or a combination?
Well, the military, here's the thing about that particular case. As you know, the Canadian government did go to the military and ask them to come and help break up the protest, and they were basically told to take a hike. However, somebody higher up obviously initiated this mission, right? So there's definitely people involved that initiated this spy mission to fly over the protest and illegally scrape data off of Canadians' phones without a warrant. In Canada, you need a warrant to obtain that information.
Until they pass C-22, that is. C-22
That's right.
The Liberals say they're amending it now. We're going to get into that later on in the show tonight. But
right.
So, oh, by the way, in Saskatchewan, I thought maybe you would have had the opportunity to attend Mark Friesen's funeral, but you didn't. But you did make a nice note on social media. I thought that was really cool. What a guy he was.
It's just so sad. I've obviously followed Mark right from the very, very beginning. I was just actually going through some of my Signal chats, and I saw my last message with him, and he was so proud. And for me, as somebody that always looked up to Mark, I just held him in such high esteem, because I really, here is a guy that he was passionate, he had drive, he wasn't afraid to stand up, and he put in the work. Like, that man put in so much work for freedom and for Canadians.
Yeah.
And for him to, be so kind to me and, tell me that he was proud of me and couldn't wait to see me, was just really, it was really something for me. And this whole journey for him is just, it's been, I mean, I can't imagine how his wife and family are doing. I mean, just as people that followed him on social media, it's been absolutely gut wrenching to watch what's happened to him and how this illness affected him.
He was the first one who introduced me to the agenda.
Wow.
Because I knew, way before Freedom Convoy even, I was talking about all of this craziness, but I hadn't yet been able to piece it together. You hear the Prime Minister of England, the UK and Canada, Australia, the president in the United States, they're all saying the same thing: build back better. When's the last time you ever saw anything like that in your life, where all of these leaders in the free world are all spouting the same nonsense pretty much? And so you knew there had to be something, but you didn't know what. And then Mark came on my show one night and he said, well, here it is. And he talked for half an hour, and I just went, oh my God. It was one of those moments where you saw Doctor Strange, right? Like the movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Where she taps him in the head and his body goes shooting back out of it's like, whoa, you're in this weird sort of crazy dimension. And finally you eventually come back in and go, oh my God. And it takes a couple of days to absorb that kind of information. Like, there is this worldwide agenda that we're trying to fight, and they're going through each world government and corporations to make it happen. And Mark was the guy who introduced me and all of the audience, you guys watching this right now, to that. And he came on a few times too, right? Like, over the course between the first time and the last time, which was a couple of years ago because he got sick. I'm going to say probably a dozen times. We had some great conversations, some great debates. So sorry to see him go. I had Yannick on as well, his wife, a couple of months ago.
Yes.
And she told the story because they were really having a rough time with money.
Yes.
And so I tried to get their Give Send Go up and running, and we managed to get some money for them. And then he died. It was like, wow. But she's heartbroken, obviously,
Of
but
course.
a warrior. So
Yeah.
so
Well, of course she is. She was married to Mark.
had to be,
How
right?
could you not be, right?
Yeah. Tell us about the debate there, Keith Wilson and Jason Kenney. How was that?
It was very good. Obviously, I can't claim to be unbiased in any way, shape, or form. I obviously went in there as a huge fan of Keith Wilson, KC. I've seen his work. I'm a huge fan of his work. And but it was really good. It was packed, sold out crowd. It went very much as I anticipated. Keith Wilson is very level-headed. He's very articulate. He's very knowledgeable. He can lay everything out for you and tell you, exactly what the steps to get there, not just how to do it, but what the steps are to get there, and also what they're doing to put those steps in place with the Alberta Transition Council that has just been formed. And whereas former Premier Kenney was very much fear-mongering. It was all about loyalty, nostalgia, love of country. The funny thing, he said the fear-mongering. He's like, the day after the referendum, your passports are going to be taken away and the airports are going to close. And everyone just started groaning. Like, it's not like the world isn't going to fall apart, if Albertans check a box on a referendum on October the 29th. And now we know that we're only checking a box on October the 29th or 19th, sorry, to hopefully have another question sometime in 2027.
Yeah.
But the debate itself was good.
Was the crowd, like, was it fair, even? Were they well behaved?
They were the majority were clearly there supporting Keith Wilson, but there was a pocket of Jason Kenney supporters, and I think that's good. I ran into his brother there. I know his brother, and I ran into his brother there, and I was actually really happy to see him there to support former Premier Kenney. I'm not a huge fan of former Premier Kenney by any means, but I mean, I'm also not a monster. And I was really pleased with how they were very respectful to each other. There was no underhanded or snarky jabs. They both laid out their cases. It just so happens that, and even if I wasn't a Keith Wilson fan / client / friend / I still would have walked out of there supporting independence, or I feel being more supportive for independence, just because, like he said to Jason Kenney, you have no plan. Like, you've sat here and you've said, all the terrible things that are going to happen that you want us. And there's another case where he said, fight, we've got to keep fighting. We got to fight for this. We got to fight for that. And I was literally just making a note because I wanted to talk to Keith about that after. Like, why do we always have to fight? Like I said earlier, we're tired of fighting. Why do we have to fight with Ottawa to get anything, anything? And then, of course, he brought it up, and he was absolutely right. And at the end of the debate, he just laid it out. He said, Premier Kenney, you have no plan. There's no plan. I have not heard one single plan about how you're going to help Albertans have better lives, or how you are going to address the concerns of Albertans, because it's not just a pipeline. Now, the pipeline is just what they throw out every now and then to give the dog a bone to shut us up. Oh, those dirty separatists. Here, give them a pipeline. Actually, no, give them an agreement to sign an agreement to have consultations at some time, to possibly have a meeting to get together to sign another agreement.
Yeah, that's exactly it. What's the mood like? And I mean, what about Danielle Smith? It seems like this is something I've been saying for a few months now. She's had to walk an incredibly narrow tightrope with the party membership of the UCP versus, because the UCP, as far as Jeff Rath is concerned, is 75% in favor of Alberta sovereignty. And she's the leader of the UCP. And if she gets recalled, or they go ahead and do the AGMs and decide they want to vote her out of that position, they probably can. Not right away, but they can do it going forward. So, there's rhetoric coming from everywhere, it seems like. And you're there. You have a feel for it. You've been reporting on it. What's your take on what's next?
Well, at this particular moment in time, I'm seeing a lot of parallels between what happened during the Freedom Convoy and what's happening to the independence movement. And it's actually alarming. And it happens to a lot of conservative movements. And guys, this is why we can't have nice things. Really, it's true.
Infighting. All the infighting.
That's right. You know, I think egos start to get involved. People stop sharing ideas and start shouting ideas. It's concerning to watch because I've literally lived this. You know, the organization that I was a part of and how many have fallen away and how that's all worked out, which is really unfortunate. People are stronger when they work together. And I mean, I think that has to remain the focus. People don't want to see that stuff. People are interested in what an Alberta independent means for them and their families, or what staying in Canada means for them and their families. They want to know how to put food on their table. They want to know how to pay their mortgage. They don't give a crap about some of the things that these people are saying about each other. And the backbiting is starting. It's really disheartening to see. I'm just hopeful that, you know, these guys are all adults. And I hope that, you know, they can just get past this, because it's disheartening when you see this sort of stuff happen, especially when you can see how strong they could be if they all work together.
Yeah.
But
You know, it seems to me, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It seems to me like Mitch
okay.
Sylvester is the guy who everybody has a ton of respect for in the leadership group of Stay Free Alberta. And, is it possible, or would it be, and maybe I'm mistaken by saying that, I don't know, but would he be the one to be able to stand up and say, all right, you guys sit down, shut up, let's come up with a plan?
Well, Shadoe, my personal opinion is that now is not the time to talk about a leader. Now is the time to get out as a team and educate people. That's going to come. And this is one of the problems with movements like this. It's like a race. You know, you get started and you get some traction. Well, who's going to lead it, and what's going to, you know, all of these things take time. We're talking about achieving independence from the country of Canada. This is a very consequential moment and a very consequential decision. You know, we don't need to worry about who's going to lead it right now. We need to worry about getting the message out to Albertans.
I guess what I meant, I'm going to interrupt you, sorry, but like what I meant was, I mean, as we say, this movement is splintering from all of the egos and whatnot, right? So we need somebody like in the moment to tell everybody to just calm down, shut up, sit down. Let's just take a few breaths here and move forward by educating people, as you say. I do believe that's the next logical step, but we can't have one guy running off here half-cocked saying stupid stuff, and then another guy going off in the completely different direction, and then backbiting each other, you know, as you pointed out, happened during the Freedom Convoy. So is there a guy?
Yeah, well, you know, they've all worked so hard. And in saying that stuff, I don't want to disparage anyone, because everyone has been out here. Mitch Sylvester, Jeff Rath, Chris Scott, and so many more that, you know, Kathy Flett, Corey Morgan, the list goes on and on. These people have basically given up their lives to go out and hold all these town halls and everything. So, I mean, if you're asking for somebody who I think would be like a good figurehead for now, I guess, I think Mitch is great. He's been out there. He's established a rapport with a lot of the people. You know, I watch Twitter, obviously, and I have never seen him put anything out that is disparaging. Look, my biggest lesson and my biggest message right from even the start of organizing the convoy helping to organize the convoy, was that we have to always be respectful. The minute you become disrespectful, you lose people and you're going to lose your message. And so I don't care what you think about anyone, you know, focus on the important things. Getting online and calling people a bunch of names is not helpful. Disparaging people is not helpful. And it's got to stop. It's really got to stop. And you know, I've never seen that kind of behavior out of Mitch Sylvester. He always seems to have a lot of time and patience. He's always there to answer questions at any of the events that I've been. He's very patient with people. That's that I don't really know him all that well personally, but yeah, I guess in that respect, you're right. I mean, we do need to have somebody that can sort of herd the cats, so to speak. But then again, it comes back to that. And that's the great thing about grassroots movements, is that there is seldom, you know, just a single leader. So I think it's both a problem And like a pro and a con, as you're alluding to, for sure.
Yeah, like you've got to be able to make sure the team is all moving in the right direction. It's a team, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
we talk about whatever kind of a team it is, whether it's a hockey team or whatever. There's always a coach, there's always a captain, there's always a team message. Toe the line, hold the line, and
Careful.
careful, you're going to get yourself arrested. Let's get back here to your give, send, go, because I'm curious to get down to the end here. Rule of law must be applied to all equally, not doled out persecution style to citizens that the government doesn't like. This is daunting but necessary task, and that's why I'm launching this crowdfund, asking for those that want to help me see this through to consider a contribution to the incredible legal fees that this case will require. I notice that you've got $100,000 as your limit right now. You say here upwards of $100,000. I mean, maybe to start with.
Yes, exactly.
Just so you can get this thing going, or more, as you say, if it's vigorously defended and goes the whole way through trial. After an initial retainer deposit has been covered, the funds will be withdrawn only as needed. Should extra funds remain, they will be returned to the donors by Give, Send, Go. You will find the full statement of claim at official tamaralich.com, and I will provide regular updates. Now, interesting, I don't want to read what you wrote here about why you chose Give, Send, Go, but, a lot of us after Convoy switched from GoFundMe to Give, Send, Go for a reason.
Yes. And absolutely. Well, GoFundMe, everybody knows that story, but I want to tell you the thing about Jacob Wells. When the government was trying to steal all of Canadians' donations from Give, Send, Go, they were having court hearings, and the lawyers in Canada stood up and said, how did this go now? I just got to think for a minute. It's been a long time. Wanted all of that money released, or not refunded. They wanted the money. They were trying to get an injunction or whatever so that he could not return that money to the donors. And he stood up and said, sirs, by the time you have, my first responsibility is to my donors. Before you have your paperwork even done, that money is going to be back in their accounts. He takes that very seriously. And that is, and I just thought that was one of the most ballsy things I'd ever seen. He's, a room, he wasn't, obviously it was all over Zoom, but, you can imagine how many lawyers the Attorney General of Ontario had sitting in there, just salivating over the chance to get their hands on, $12 million is what was raised through Give, Send, Go following the 10 million at GoFundMe. And he just stood up to him and said, hit me with your best shot. Like, I'm going to get this money back to the people that it belongs to before you have a chance to steal it.
Good Christian man. Very
good Christian man. Yeah.
And so I'm happy that you chose that. So you want to know what I want to do here? Well, people have been, because I did drop the link in the social media platforms, and I'll do it again in just a second. I want to do a refresh.
Oh boy.
I want to see if we got anything more here. Refresh.
People did that during the convoy too, eh?
Yeah.
People would go and check.
It's like the old Jerry Lewis telethon, Yeah. Timpani. Every hour you go and check the number on the board, 75,154. So guys, I dropped the link in the comments on Facebook and on X. I'll do it again. It's on my Facebook page. It's on, what's it, official tamaralich.com or
.ca? .ca was gone.
So yeah, I guess. So you can go there, give whatever you got, $5, $10. I mean, this, Tamara said earlier, this is not just for her. You made this decision, so this never happens to any other Canadians again. And people might say, well, how would this ever happen to other Canadians? I mean, we're never going to see the Freedom Convoy again. I'll tell you what, man, there's all kinds of things. Look at Barry in, I forget his name, Neufeld in BC.
Yes.
Like Human Rights Tribunal, there's $750,000 they fined him for saying that men can't be women and women can't be men. Maybe he was a little more creative with the message. I don't know. And they say they found it disparaging. But how did they come up with a number like $750,000? It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's bonkers. I mean, it's totally bonkers. Like, we've just gotten out of the whole realm of reality here. But one thing I want to note is that It is a civil suit, so I am seeking a cash award or reward at the end of the day, right? So I think in the lawsuit, my entire statement of claim is posted at my website. You're more than welcome to go and have a look at it. It will explain everything, and I think it works out to 1.75 million is the total ask. It will never in a million years, even if I win, will I get that. These are very hard cases to win. But anyways, I made the decision because this isn't about me. You know, if there is a cash award of some kind, some type of settlement, I will calculate some of my lost wages for losing my job, but the bulk of that money I am going to split in half. I'm going to donate 50% of it to the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms and the other 50% of it to the Democracy Fund. It's not for the money. It's just not for the money. You know, and trust me, Shadoe, I thought long and hard about this because it is huge. I was sick to my stomach. When you're talking about paying a lawyer in an action like this, that is very hard to win. You know, you're right. You know, $150,000 could possibly just be scraping the surface. My retainer was $25,000 just because of the polarizing nature of my case. So retainer is usually 10.
Wow. Well, take your case, Ms. Lich, but you know that it's going to cost us some credibility within the legal circles of Toronto. So we're going to need some more money. It's always about money, right?
I love how you put it like that.
Well,
but again, you know, I just want to make sure that the organizations that have done so much to help me and Chris and so many other people, you know, I know that they take donations and they've covered it, but they've helped so many people, not just the convoy people. But I really want to give something back to them. And you know, we'll see. It's all hypothetical at this point. I could end up having my ass handed to me. I don't know. I mean, but it's scary. It's scary. And I had to make that choice. Like, is this something that I could really commit to? Because, you know, that I had to sign that document before I launched a crowdfund. Right.
Like, where am I going to get $25,000 if I can't get a crowdfund
or $100,000? Or what if what happens if I lose and I have to pay costs? Like, I literally could be signing my life away for a lifetime of bankruptcy. But it's that important to me that this never happens to another Canadian citizen. Due process, due diligence, proper investigation has to be done. You can't just rip someone off the street, haul them across the country in leg shackles, and leave them in a jail cell for a month with no investigation. My sister did more investigation into that photograph than the homicide detective, than Detective Benson. He sat on the stand at my hearing, and they asked him, you know, who these people were, and it was, I don't know. My sister, who was my surety, could tell you their names. She could tell you where they worked. She could tell you their neighbors' names. She could tell you their pet. Like, I mean, she investigated. And she's not a homicide detective. And literally all they had to do was call me.
Did you talk to did you talk to Chris about this? Did you say, hey, you want to come in on this with me? Or maybe Tom or any of the others? And because I know, you know, it's daunting, Tamara. And I know you're courageous and everything, but I mean, to do this alone when you could have some partners.
Well, but none of them were arrested. It's the circumstances of the breach. I couldn't go after them for the conviction for my mischief because I was convicted. So you can't go after, you know, I've already been found guilty of committing that crime. So there was, you know, can't prove malicious prosecution if I can't prove malicious prosecution against a prosecutor if the judge has found me guilty. Basically is what I'm trying to say. But in the case of my breach, there is clearly negligent investigation. There is clearly malicious prosecution. My legal team is very excited about the statement of claim that Keith wrote up for me. It's brilliant. And, you know, it on its face, I think I have a good chance of winning, and so do they. I'm the one that kept telling my lawyer, is like, well, I know, you know, these are really hard. And he's like, no, don't sell yourself short. This case is not like other cases. This case is unprecedented. People are not normally treated this way.
You know, that's the thing.
Especially grandmas.
We've seen so many unprecedented things happen these past 5 or 6 years. And whenever we get a ruling from a court, it always seems to disappoint. Well, maybe not always, but 9 times out of 10, right? So as you say, it must be terrifying for you to be going through with this, just raising the money, lifetime of bankruptcy and whatever else. But what would be the process for this to, I mean, you've named all of these people here, including the king
Yep.
that you're suing. I mean, is it all going to be happening simultaneously? Has your lawyer walked you through what would be the process?
No, we haven't got to that point yet. Basically, we were on a very, very tight timeline. I had this lawsuit filed for quite some time, but we had to get it served before the deadline ran out. So, of course, we weren't anticipating, a 3-week, a 2-week search for a legal team and then a 3-week wait for the firm to approve it. So we lost quite a bit of time there. So we were really like days away from the cutoff, the deadline to have these served. We did apply for an extension anyways, because there's different rules in Ontario. So under the Ontario Prosecution and Liabilities Act, I believe is what it's called, there is a clause that if you're going to take any action against a Crown prosecutor, you have to give them a 60-day heads up. Only in Ontario. Like, okay, anyways, never mind. That makes sense. It's in Ontario. But we weren't aware of that clause. So because of that, I'm still not sure if we had to give Moise Karimji 60 days notice before we filed this action, which was over a year and a half ago, or if it was 60 days before he was served. And it was filed a long time ago. And the reason it was filed, like Keith did the statement of claim, and we had to get it in before that deadline ended just to hold this case in place, right?
Right.
So what's going to happen now? We'll wait to hear about the extension deadline. We did hear back from the defendants, and they are going to be filing a statement of defense. That'll probably take, and they'll be also asking for more time to get that documentation together. And then, I know my lawyer right now is really busy on a case in British Columbia. So once he gets back, I'm sure we'll sit down and have a lengthy meeting to find out how this process works.
So if this actually does make it to trial, you're going to have to go back to Ottawa, or are you going to do it in Toronto this time or elsewhere? Like, where will it actually play out?
I would assume it'll play out in Ottawa, because that's where everything's happened. But that also remains to be seen. I mean, because it is such an open, it's just so black and white. So, they could put up a bit of a fight and then just want to settle at some point too. So it may not ever even go to trial. But I've been on the hot seat enough. I'd like to see some of them on the hot seat too. And at the end of the day, as terrifying as it is, monetarily to lose if I have to pay costs or whatever, I just want to give them at least a black eye, at least a black eye. And I think one of the reasons why Canadians have supported this campaign like they have, which is absolutely overwhelming and so touching, is that this is an avenue for them to punch back a little bit too. As we were talking about earlier, there's really, what are they going to do? Call their MP, write a harshly worded letter to the Prime Minister of Canada? They're not going to organize a protest, so I feel like this gives them an avenue to help me fight too. And they're fighting with me. And that's what the Freedom Convoy was about. That's what everything has been about ever since then. It's been all of us working together, to try and stop the injustices that are happening to Canadians, and then the injustices that have happened as a result of the Freedom Convoy.
What needs to happen, Tamara? I mean, we've seen Tommy Robinson be very successful with his rallies in the UK, like the Unite the Kingdom rally a couple of weekends ago. I think 60 or 70,000 people showed up for that, at a bigger one even a few months ago. And they've got a lot to be angry about over there, just as we do over here. And, I've always said to people, well, our country is just so big. It's so difficult for people to, make a day trip or even, a weekend trip to a place like Ottawa or Toronto or wherever it is. And so what we've wound up with, people are saying, well, we're going to do a slow roll in Regina and every capital city across the country. We're going to make a point. And that's not enough. I mean, what you guys did with the convoy, with the Freedom Convoy, inspired the world. You know that. Can we manage to do something again to let the government know that we're not going to stand up for this mass immigration or the climate change nonsense and the high taxes that go with it, or, whatever else, like the transing of kids, that Billboard Chris is so passionate about. Pierre Poilievre said something very good about that just a couple of days ago in Vancouver. But anyway, that's a different story. I mean, we've got all of these different ideologies flying in our face, property rights in British Columbia and all of these different land claims all across the country. People are finally, at some point, they're going to have to stand up and say, no more.
Yeah.
So what is it that we need to do, to get this to happen again? I guess, first of all, maybe people need to be angry enough to make it so, right?
Yeah. Or desperate enough. I mean, I guess that's the other thing too. And really that was, the convoy, desperation and anger. And, Shadoe, I don't know how to answer that. I thought something.
And by the way, before you continue, I'm going to say this to any federal agents who may be listening to this. I asked Tamara a question, and
Yes.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Having said that.
Exactly. Oh, don't worry. I regularly go, just kidding, CSIS, to my phone. So I totally get that. It's not even being paranoid.
We should all do that.
I agree with you. Canada is so huge. My daughter lives in rural Manitoba, Shadoe, and she can't take her kids for a walk unless she has a firearm with her in some areas, because there's bears, there's cougars, there's, fishers, there's wolverines, there's wolves, there's coyotes. You can't have the same gun legislation in rural Manitoba that you're going to have in downtown Toronto. Two completely different scenarios. Now that I've had, so many opportunities to drive across this beautiful country, every province is different. They have different livelihoods. They have, a different way of life. They have different needs. And to try and govern them all under the same blanket is next to impossible, in my opinion. Does it make me sad now? I mean, I went from full on independence, to the point where we formed a Western independence political party, to, the Freedom Convoy, to now, I don't know. I mean, I think we're just at a point where Alberta's doing the right thing. At some point, you just have to say, okay, we have tried and tried and tried, and maybe we need to focus at home. Maybe we need to take our resources, our talent, our people, and, become strong, nice and strong here first, and stable, and make sure we've got strong families. And, then we can help others. I don't think Albertans so much mind sending money to Quebec and the eastern provinces to help them, but it would sure be nice to at least get a thank you instead of, why don't you shut your pie hole? We don't want your dirty oil, but we sure want the money that comes from it. We're constantly called, look at Avi Lewis today, just before I came on your show. Avi Lewis. Now I'm only not going to give him any credit, but here's a guy saying, well, you can't treat Quebec separatism and Alberta separatism the same, because Quebecers have a culture and Albertas are just mega style hillbillies, basically. You wonder why.
Did he do that? Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What did he say? Yeah, we're just mega style
hillbillies. You see, this is the problem, as you point out. Go ahead. Did you find it?
I wanted to look it up to get the actual quote, because I didn't want to. Let me see. Yeah, just completely disrespectful. So I guess my point is I don't know the answer. I have a lot of people that ask if I will go into politics, and I don't want to do that, because the system is broken. The system is broken. We just watched a complete implosion of, Pierre Poilievre had a super majority, and he blew it. I won't say he blew it, but something happened and it didn't work. Now we have a stolen majority. If you think that you're going to, vote your way out of this, it's not happening. And I would be shocked if we ever see a conservative government, for sure, a conservative majority government, ever again, or at least for quite some time. Did you find it? Sorry.
No, I didn't. I thought you were.
I'm going to look for it right now, because I'm talking too much here.
Here's a conspiracy theory for you while you're looking.
Yeah, you bet.
And this may be not even really a conspiracy theory, considering everything we've seen the last few years. But there's a young lady on Substack who's got a Substack called Hard Pressed North. Have you seen it?
Hard Pressed North? No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's pretty new, a couple of months maybe. I had her on last week. Her name is Chrissy Bremney, and she's smart, right? When you watch the two older ladies from Promethean Action, and you hear them talking about all of the different geopolitical moves that Trump is making, and how clogging up the Strait of Hormuz is a good thing to break the city of London's economic grip on the world, all of this stuff. If you look at what Trump has been doing if you were following that, and if you believe what they're saying, you see that Trump is implementing this thing, the Monroe Doctrine, which is his version of the Monroe Doctrine, 200 years old, where you basically got control over the entire hemisphere. So Trump has taken Venezuela, right? He's got the deal he wanted with Greenland for rare earth minerals. He's going to take Cuba. It's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
He got the Panama Canal back from the Chinese. He got rid of all the Chinese influence in Venezuela. And Chrissy also claims that it's China who are financing the city of London so they can keep financing the war in Ukraine. I mean, it's all intertwined. It's very, very interesting.
100%. Yeah.
So Trump needs control over the Western Hemisphere. He's got all the oil and gas he needs. He's got the rare earth minerals. He doesn't have computer chips. They come from Taiwan, but he's amping up production of that in the United States. The only thing he doesn't have locked down in our hemisphere right now is Canada.
Right.
So when we talk about the 51st state, that's all BS. I mean, he could talk about that. Yeah. You read Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, ask big, like completely off the wall, nuts. And you get what you really want at the end of that negotiation. Trump doesn't want all of Canada because that would be the biggest liberal state. It would be worse than California, right? Like the Republicans would never, the Republicans would never win the Senate or the House ever again, never mind the presidency. So if you say, okay, I want the Canada to be the 51st state, knowing that's almost impossible, you go, no, I don't really want all of Canada. I want Alberta. Right. So Danielle Smith goes down to Mar-a-Lago. She meets with Trump. She talks to him. Then she comes back. And a couple of days later, what happens? She decides that she wants to create the conditions for the people to be able to have a referendum on separation by lowering the standards.
Right.
Do you think that maybe Trump got in her ear a little bit and said, I understand that maybe some people in Alberta want independence, but could we make a deal?
Mm-hmm.
So, and if not Trump, maybe some of the alphabet agencies working on this, right? Like a destabilization plan, something. I just feel like something big is happening in the next 12 to 18 months, and I think that might be it.
Well, I don't think so, but I mean, I don't know. Like you said, so many things, there's so many things that are connected, and honestly, nothing would shock me anymore. I don't think Trump wants to take over Alberta, and you just nailed it. Like, why would he want Canada? That would be like the biggest headache of his entire tenure. But
Ontario, Quebec, anyway. But
that's
Alberta,
right.
Saskatchewan. Come on, I mean, those are people are his people, and all that oil and gas too, and his best, and all of the potash and the rare earth and the mines. I mean, it's a gold mine.
It is. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta. I mean,
well, not the Winnipeg part.
Well, not the Winnipeg part. You're right. Yeah.
You take the northern part and the western part, but not the Winnipeg part.
Yeah,
and even part of BC too, for that matter, right? I mean, it's a whole different mindset from the interior out to the coast. So I just feel like something big is really happening.
And that I think Americans want Canada to succeed. I really do. I think they wish us the best. I mean, they've been our longest neighbor. They've been our longest trading partner. And I think they want to see us succeed. I think they're very concerned for what's happening, in our country right now. I think they're watching what's happening in Alberta with great interest, not to take over Alberta by any means, but, I know I remember seeing, tweets about, people that wanted to become the 51st state, or that, they would put out there, Donald Trump, come save us. Donald Trump, come save Canada. And I was like, you know what? Donald Trump despises weakness. Donald Trump will not help anyone unless they're willing to help themselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I think he wants the best for us. If I was him, I would be concerned. If I had China moving in as comfortably next door to the longest land border in the world, I would be a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
If I was, popping over to Qatar to sign some deals, I would, Canadian, I'd be a little bit concerned if my neighbor was doing stuff like that. So I'm sure they're concerned. I think they want what's best for us. And I don't see that they're, I guess that is my concern going forward. I mean, if things continue the way they are here with the mass immigration and, the
climate change ridiculousness, right? Like the Carney still wants us going to net zero, and they've done away with that in the States. It's history. It's not happening.
Shadoe, we literally
Tamara.
just had the third interstellar object known to man fly through our solar system. I can't remember what it was. A ridiculous speed. There's been comments. I mean, when you watch the stuff, there's space weather that's happening. We literally just had a coronal mass injection go off the other side of the sun that simultaneously triggered an earthquake in Chile 2 days ago. It's documented. So don't tell me that throwing some money on a pile is going to save the climate. Don't tell me with your freaking made up nonsense words that we're going to decarbonize oil. Hello?
Yeah.
You can't decarbonize oil. Do you know what would happen if you decarbonized yourself, Shadoe?
You wouldn't be a person.
Exactly.
A pile of bones, maybe. And it's like demoisturizing water, decarbonizing oil. It's the stupidest thing in the world, right? But no, we're going to do this. We're going through the pathways. You see, this is the problem. This is the problem, right? And so we can't put up with that stuff anymore. I believe that there's some, this is something that if you look at the history of Canada, 1867, when it first became a country, and you see all of the border changes and all of the additions that it's made over the past 150 years. You go, wow, when Manitoba was first admitted into Confederation or dragged into Confederation, it used to be called the postage stamp province because it was Winnipeg and then maybe 20 or 30 miles in each direction of the city. It was this little small square. And the rest of it was still Assiniboia, Buffalo, whatever it was, right? And then Saskatchewan comes in, and Alberta in 1905. And they split up those two provinces, the Buffalo province, because they thought it was going to be too powerful as a singular province. That was Wilfrid Laurier who did that. So all of these changes that have happened to this country over the years, people think, well, it's static now. It's never going to change. I say, are you kidding? The last time it changed, Newfoundland and Labrador became part of Canada. Nunavut, the border up north, right? The border separated from the Northwest Territories and became Nunavut 30 years ago. So what's to stop the changing the borders of Alberta or Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or British Columbia for that matter? If the people who live in the interior of BC or the western parts of Manitoba want to become part of this new country or become part of the United States or whatever, then something has got to happen. They've got to stand up and say, we want this. The question is, will the government listen to them or will they just keep doing what they're doing? And if they do, I just don't see good things happening, And that's sad because as you point out, Tamara, and this is so true, people are tired of fighting. They're tired of it. Just want to go back to some kind of semblance of life and being able to enjoy it, like you with your kids and grandkids and, 5th anniversary today. And, all of that stuff. It's more than 5. And all of that stuff. And you're still going back to court. I find it amazing.
Yeah.
I got to thank you for coming on
it's a dirty
tonight.
job. Well, thank you for having me. I really, I haven't seen you for so long. It's really great to catch up. And I hope you do come out for a visit. It would be great to have you.
I've been so thinking about it. Maggie Hope Braun too. She's getting back in gear. I talked to her a couple of weeks ago. She said, Shadoe, I need some inspiration. I said, so why are you calling me? And she said, well, I got to get back into it. Her Kickley thing. She knows so much about the UN ICLEI project and all of the municipalities. And so, we absolutely need her. She's vital to this. And I'm thinking, maybe I'll go see her and then drag her out west and we can go do a big sweep of Alberta and Saskatchewan and BC and have a couple of weeks in the summer for just traveling and seeing some familiar faces. It would be nice.
That would be wonderful. Yes. Keep me posted on that for sure.
I absolutely will. Thank you, Tamara. I'm going to put the Give, Send, Go up again in comments, and we'll throw it up on the screen one more time before I'm done tonight. I'm not. I've still got some more things to do. Thank you.
Okay. Sweetie. Thank you so much. You guys have a great night.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon.
Take care.
All right. Coming right back. Hey, how you doing? Oh, you know what? Tamara, the sign says she's still there. She's not. So let me just make this. Yeah, she just texted me good night. What a sweetheart. So nice to have her on the show. We've got some more guests lined up for the show in the next couple of weeks as well. I think maybe even Tony Olenek is going to come on in the next couple of weeks. We're going to stay in touch, and I'll let you know. I do have some more stuff I want to cover tonight. Normally, what I would do is go to the website and say, all right, you all access Nighthawks. It's just us from now till the end. But tonight, I'm going to stay live on all of the social media platforms. Guys, the show is on every single weeknight. Not every single weeknight, but most weeknights, generally speaking, Monday to Friday from 8 until about 9:30 Central Time. If you want the show, you can check it out at shadoedavis.com. Become an all-access member monthly or yearly. And the audio version of the show is free on Substack. So follow me there, shadoedavis.substack.com. You can listen to the show at the very least, and that costs you absolutely nothing. Here is Tamara's Give, Send, Go again. GiveSendGo.com. My stand against malicious prosecution. One more time, if you guys could go ahead and share that in comments on whatever platform you're watching on right now, that would be absolutely awesome. I have some more news for you. Guess who's leaving finally? This guy.
You to stay?
There were some conversations.
With the Prime Minister, I should be more specific.
There was some conversation with his office where they said they were interested in keeping me on board, but at the same time, I don't think they were particularly pleased with the fact that I was being publicly vocal in my disagreement with the government on some of those issues. So I think it's I respect the Prime Minister. I respect the team and cabinet and my colleagues. It's just time for me. I came into and people come into politics for different reasons. That's why I came into politics. And if I can't work on that and help move those issues inside politics, then I'm just going to go and do it somewhere else.
Do you think the possibility exists for others to follow suit? What does your gut tell you?
I think it's a good question. I mean, as you know, in our parliamentary system, it's very rare to see a cabinet minister leave cabinet of their own. Usually you're asked to leave, or there's an election, there's a cabinet shuffle. I can tell you that I'm not the only one who's uncomfortable with what's happening. Other than that, I'm not sure what people will do.
What? Well, we know that 14 Liberal MPs sent a letter to Mark Carney last week saying they're not happy with his backslide on environmental issues because of the MOU that he signed. Well, I mean, what does that even mean? Like Tamara was saying earlier, right? Like he signed an MOU for an agreement for a meeting for a possibility of maybe a pipeline one day. But we've got to get BC to approve. We got to get First Nations to approve, and we got to get investors. I say good luck with that. There is absolutely zero chance of any kind of pipeline leaving Alberta going to British Columbia in the next few years. I don't think it's going to happen. I'd love it to happen. You know, in a perfect world, you want your country to work, but I just don't see it happening. So, no, it's just a scam. And if you've read Mark Carney's book, Values, he does not want more oil and gas. He wants less oil and gas. He wants net zero. He wants leaving oil and gas in the ground. There's a reason that he keeps talking, but doing nothing at all. Because that's his plan. That's always been his plan the whole time. He'll tell you what you want to hear. The gullible people out there will believe him, but ultimately he will do nothing. So if he loses these MPs, let's just say he does, loses these MPs, they go sit as independents, or maybe they form their own party, or they join the Greens, or whatever it is they do, that will once again drop the Liberal Party into a minority position. Now, Having said that, with Guilbeault quitting, not just leaving the Liberal caucus, but quitting outright as MP later on this summer, Nate Erskine-Smith is also resigning his seat, and Jonathan Wilkinson from North Vancouver will be leaving his seat to become Canadian High Commissioner of the European Union later on this year. That's 3 more Liberals that are gone, dropping them to 171, which is a minority. The problem is that the by-elections are in Liberal strongholds. Don't know that the Conservatives could win. Maybe 1 seat could go to the Bloc. Possibly the Conservatives could pull off the seat in BC, but the seat that Nate Erskine-Smith has, that's been a Toronto Liberal riding forever and ever and a day. So they would get 1 seat back at the very least, but who knows what could happen, right? I mean, 14 Liberal MPs, not happy. They didn't want their names out there, so they told the CBC, anonymous. The CBC complied. If these people had any backbone, had any spine whatsoever, they would allow their names out there because they do represent people in 14 different ridings across the country. Okay, China. How much influence does China have in Canada? Plenty. Here's a story from left-wing corporate Global News today. Canadian researchers are calling for a more coordinated response by G7 countries to counter systemic Chinese foreign interference, particularly as technology and tactics evolve and Beijing's agents embed themselves further into societies. So these researchers from here are saying, well, we've got to work more closely with the UK and with the USA. Here's the thing about the USA. Right now, under their current administration, they don't share information with Canadian alphabet agencies, if you will, because they don't trust them, because they believe they're all infiltrated by, you guessed it, China. Wednesday's report by the Montreal Institute for Global Security comes a day before Canada is set to welcome China's foreign minister to Ottawa for the first time in a decade. Speaking alongside the report's authors on Parliament Hill, former member of Parliament John McKay urged Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand to raise the issue of foreign interference with her counterpart Wang Yi during her visit, and here he is saying it.
And I want to take this opportunity as well to note that the Minister of Foreign Affairs is apparently, for the first time in 10 years, making a visit to Canada from China. As this is an opportunity for a reset of our relationships between Canada and China, I hope that both ministers will take the opportunity to operationalize that reset so that this level of interference ceases, that both countries have an expectation that the other country will not involve itself in the items that have outlined very capably by Maria and Kyle in their report. So I'm rather hoping that in the event that there is a press conference, that question will be put to both ministers to A, see whether it's been discussed, and B, to see whether there's been any commitments made on the issue of foreign interference by the Chinese government in the affairs of Canada.
Well, John, I think that's a little bit naive and comical as well. I was talking about this on last night's show. We're going to ask you to not interfere in our society because it's not just elections. It's not just the federal government. If you understand how deep the Chinese infiltration is in Canada, you would understand that the justice system is compromised. Provincial governments are compromised. Municipal governments are compromised. Bureaucracies are compromised. Police forces are compromised. Obviously, the court system is compromised by China. And Mark Carney just goes along with it. Do you think that Donald Trump is going to put up with China North on his doorstep? Of course not. Especially, well, he's got the Don Roe doctrine just cruising along. We got Venezuela. We got Cuba. We got that deal with Mexico. We got Greenland. We're going to get the rest of South America eventually. Maybe Brazil. We'll see what happens with Brazil. We've definitely got Argentina. Canada. He's got to have a plan, because there's absolutely zero way he's going to allow Carney to snuggle up even more to China. Canada is not Canada any longer, by the way. It's China now. Mark Carney was asked today, hey, look, are you going to release the details of the MOU, the policing agreement that you signed on behalf of the RCMP and the Chinese police? Here's what he said.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi later this week paved the way for a visit by President Xi Jinping. And you said previously that there are guardrails in place in Canada against foreign interference, yet your government has not released publicly the RCMP MOU signed with Chinese police. Why is that?
We don't make a habit. I'll answer the second part of the question first. We don't make a habit of releasing security documents with other governments for reasons of operational security. That is standard practice for this government, previous governments as well. So I don't see a reason to change that in this circumstance. So thank you for that question, but that's our policy, and that's what we stay to. I look forward to the visit of China's foreign minister tomorrow. I will have a chance to meet with him. It'll be a valuable exchange of views, and I appreciate his arrival. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's not going to release the details of exactly what he committed us to, policing-wise, with China. China, an authoritarian, totalitarian, communist dictatorship. And there was a recent poll, I'm not exactly sure, I forget when it was, maybe a month and a half ago or something, and I forget which polling agency. You guys can try and look this up if you're so inclined. When Canadians were asked if they would rather, get into bed with China or the United States, the majority said China. This is mind-boggling to me. A communist, well, I just said it, versus the country that we've relied upon, we're friends with, kind of like a little brother for the last 150 years. And let's be completely honest here. Without the United States, Canada is done. So Trump, Trump can talk all he wants to about tariffs and whatnot. Ultimately, he needs to be able to control Canada. And maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe I don't see it. Maybe you see it. Maybe he said economic pressure would be enough to drive a stake through Canada's heart. Economic pressure. Now, if you think about this, the renegotiation of USMCA, or CUSMA, as it's known up here by the left-wing corporate media, that's coming up in weeks. Like the beginning of July, they're going to do that. If Trump says that, you know what, we don't need this. Like he's said it over and over again. If he's not serious about negotiations over that document, free trade between Canada and the United States, over 80% of our goods and services that we send there completely tariff-free. If he doesn't want it and he lets that slide, he can give 6 months and the thing is gone. And then he said he would pound us with 100% tariffs on everything. Might be a little hurt for some companies in the United States, but ultimately Canada would have to capitulate. Canada would have no choice but to capitulate. Like economists say, a recession. No, it would not be a recession. It would be a depression for Canada. And then what? China moves in? No, Trump's not going to let that happen. So what would he do if China decided they were going to send in, food and supplies so Canada could feed itself? And we can't even supply our own country with energy because there's no way to do it. There's no pipelines from east to west. We can't do it. We're the fourth largest stock of oil and gas in the world, and we cannot get it to our own people unless it's via train or truck. And that takes far too long. And if you can't provide your people with energy, then ultimately you can't feed them. Canada's not a sovereign nation. Never has been. We've relied upon the UK at the very beginning, and then it was the United States since World War II, maybe longer than that. And now suddenly we're going to make the move to China? I really don't think so. I really don't think so. So yeah, Alberta is the battleground right now. Tamara didn't think so. I think that's what it's going to be. That's the flashpoint. So what's going on right now is it's a battle, right? And every war has got a battle. So right now the Carney side has won the latest battle where you can't have a vote on sovereignty and make it binding because the judge says so. Even though there are a whole bunch of people within Stay Free Alberta that say, no, the judge got it wrong. We're going to appeal it. Problem is, they're not going to be able to get the appeal ruling soon enough before the October referendum. I think that that's going to be overturned well before the referendum, and it'll go back to being binding. And I believe there is American interference going on with this. And if I'm right, you're going to see Alberta vote for independence in October. That's what I think is going to happen. It's not going to be organic, but that's what I think is going to happen. So Danielle Smith's in a bit of a pickle. Mark Carney has been out saying, I'm sorry, but no vote is going to validate you leaving the country. You're just not going to be able to do it. So Mark Carney says, no. I mean, it needs to be more than 50+1. It needs, no, the Clarity Act doesn't say. So Carney is chiming in on this stuff now. The people in Alberta are not exactly happy about it. I don't blame them. But the people in Quebec, especially the government in waiting, Plamondon and his PQ, Parti Québécois, they don't like what they're hearing either, because if it applies to Alberta, it's going to have to apply to Quebec. And if it doesn't, then the whole thing is illegitimate, right? So Carney was caught on a hot mic yesterday as he was talking to his housing minister, former mayor of Vancouver, Gregor Robertson, about Danielle Smith being given an off-ramp. She didn't take it. Calls her stupid. Here, watch this.
Yeah, Prime Minister, I'm hoping you can clarify some remarks that you made after the scrum on Monday. When you were leaving the press conference, you spoke with Minister Robertson, and I want to read what you set out. What are you doing?
Now, first of all, let's go back, because Carney already knows what this reporter is going to ask him. He's been advised by his people that these remarks got out on a hot mic. So this whole smile here, this whole big thing, that's fake. I don't know what you're talking about. Watch again.
Thank you.
Yeah, Prime Minister, I'm hoping you can clarify some remarks that you made after the scrum on Monday. When you were leaving the press conference, you spoke with Minister Robertson, and I want to read what you set out. What are you doing? This is stupid. You've got an off-ramp. Take it. That to me sounds like you're talking about Danielle Smith and the Alberta referendum question.
I was talking to Minister Robertson.
But
So I think that the headlines of what he's doing is enough. So I understand it. I will raise it. Okay. Say, Prime Minister, this is not consistent.
Can you clarify what you were discussing in that point in time? Because the scrum was about what Ms. Smith had done.
No, it was about Minister Robertson. Look, I have, I think if I'm gonna take your question about the relationship with Canada and Alberta, Canada and the federal government and the provinces, and we practice cooperative federalism. We work together. What we're focused on is making the federation work. We're doing that with Alberta. With respect to a variety of aspects of energy. It's much more than a pipeline. It's nuclear. It interconnects with British Columbia. It's a new industry of carbon capture. It's restarting the renewable market. It's getting a carbon market that actually works, that other provinces can be able to join, so we can broaden out a national carbon market. That's what we're doing there. We're here talking about defense industrial strategy, the benefits of the announcement we just made around the negotiations led by Secretary of State Fuhr and President Guzman on the Global Eye, and the fact that will bring a third of the production of those those aircraft to Canada of the global production, a minimum of a third to Canada, benefits for supply chains in Quebec and also across the country. That's what we're focused on, and that's the thing.
That was not about the pre.
That's my answer is my answer. Thank you.
Did not answer the question. My answer is my answer. It's a big game, man. They're all actors, though. All the world's a stage. It's crazy. Tim Hortons, by the way, you guys know Dunkin' Donuts is coming back to Canada. I think it's already back in some areas. I could have sworn I saw Mario for the North or from the North. You know, Mario from Instagram and X. He was holding the Dunkin' Donuts today. So I think that Dunkin' Donuts is man, that was fast. Already opened in some Southern Ontario locations. That's fantastic. And you know what they say? We're going to be hiring Canadian. It's an American company. Where's all the elbows up people? Where's all the, I can't have an American company here? Do they understand that Tim Hortons is an American company, was bought by American company 12 or 13 years ago, and they hire temporary foreign workers? Well, now Tim Hortons has said, look at this, from left-wing corporate taxpayer-funded CBC. They've committed to hiring 10,000 local employees and scale back on temporary foreign workers. Move comes as company announces 80 new stores nationwide ahead of American chain Dunkin' returning to Canada. Isn't that fascinating? They're trying to head it off at the pass. So let me ask you a question. Would you be willing to forgive Tim Hortons for doing what they've done for the past few years and completely foregoing Canadian teenagers and hiring temporary foreign workers who barely speak the language, who make bad coffee apparently and bad pastries and give us bad service? Would you be willing to forgive Tim Hortons for that because they say they're hiring 10,000 local employees? And by the way, they say local employees. These temporary foreign workers could be local, I suppose, for a while, temporarily. So why not hire them? They didn't say Canadians. They said local employees. Food for thought. If I ever do go out for coffee, it will be to Dunkin' Donuts, provided they keep their word as well and hire Canadian and only Canadian. You guys know about Bill C-22. This is a bill that will give lawful access to the police, not just to possibly your home, your car, but all of your electronics, everything you do online. Companies will be ordered to hold on to all metadata for 12 months and create backdoors so the government can get in to look at your stuff if they suspect you of something. Executives from Apple and Google have urged the federal government to tighten rules in its proposed lawful access legislation to avoid creating vulnerabilities in their products, arguing so-called backdoors into encrypted data systems could be exploited by cyber criminals. Oh, and by the way, this legislation also means that they can do all of this anonymously. The government can, if they suspect you of something, they can go to Google or they can go to Apple or they can go to your internet service provider and say this person needs to be canceled, and you'll never know why. You'll never be notified of anything. You just won't have service anymore. Bill C-22 would lead to the creation of regulations requiring core telecommunications providers to create capabilities for law enforcement to access information and for the retention of user metadata for up to 1 year, like I just said. Ministerial orders could then be given to other providers without judicial oversight. And we had some Google and Apple executives in federal committees the last few days, and here's what they said.
You said that you consider Bill C-22 more intrusive than American laws. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. The unbounded essentially nature of the powers that are afforded to direct product changes by companies in secrecy and without judicial oversight in the case of the ministerial orders goes beyond any regime that I'm familiar with.
Were you consulted before the bill was drafted? Have you already expressed your reservations to the government as part of the drafting process?
We have provided a submission with some specific recommendations, but I will pass this to my colleague Jeanette on your broader question.
So we have shared these concerns with the government. I think I don't believe we were in a consultation process prior to tabling, but we welcome the opportunity to engage with this committee to find workable solutions here that can support law enforcement in their legitimate need to conduct investigations while also preserving user privacy and maintaining the security of our products and services. So thank you for the constructive engagement.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Vice Chairs, and members of the committee. My name is Eric Neunschwander, and I'm the Senior Director of User Privacy and Child Safety at Apple, where I've been a software engineer for 19 years. I worked as the first data analysis engineer on the first iPhone and founded Apple's privacy engineering team. Today, my job is to make sure that Apple's products and services keep our users' information safe. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. As you know, this may be one of the last times we're permitted to discuss the consequences of this legislation publicly. That's because of the bill's secrecy provisions, which forbid companies like Apple from even discussing the orders we receive with our users or the public. So today, I want to be clear about how we approach privacy at Apple. And I want to be clear on why encryption is so important to defending the privacy and security of people in Canada and around the world.
So, from what we understand, just before we went live for the show tonight, the government has said, okay, there's a lot of pressure coming in, so we're going to take this bill, which is already in Senate, by the way. No, wait a minute, that's C9. Sorry about that. C22 still being bumped around in the House of Commons. We're going to take this bill and we're going to amend it. We'll make some changes to it to make it more palatable, maybe more acceptable, because there's a lot of ambiguous language in there that the government is so famous for using. That doesn't necessarily say that they want a back door into somebody's personal information, but they create the conditions for the companies to make that door on their behalf. And if they suspect somebody of something, they just go to Apple or Google or whichever your internet service provider is, and they say, yeah, we want this guy's information, and they can go ahead and get it. There's also a lot of VPN services that are threatening to pull out of Canada, Signal, because their whole thing is about your personal security, right? That's how they've sold themselves to the public for the past 5 to 10 years. Hey, man, you've got us, you've got personal security. So they're not really excited about creating government backdoors into your personal information that the government wants. And that could be another factor why the Liberals are saying, you know what, we got to pull back on this thing. We have got to pull back on this thing. Today marks 5 years since it was announced that they found the bodies of 215 children at a residential school in Kamloops. Of course, we know that's a lie. No bodies have ever been discovered there. All they ever had was anomalies found through ground-penetrating radar. From Juno News, the Globe and Mail deletes post alleging Kamloops children's remains were found. 5 years ago, radar technology located the remains of 215 former residential school students, reads the Globe and Mail LinkedIn post. There it is right there, but it's not there anymore. Despite misleading claims widely spread by the media, the 215 graves of children were uncovered at the site of the former Kamloops residential school. No remains have ever been excavated. No forensic or DNA evidence has ever been confirmed. The Post also linked growing importance over the findings to what it calls residential school denialism. There are actually MPs, Leah Gazan, NDP MP from Winnipeg, notably, who suggests that if you deny there was essentially a Holocaust at residential schools in Canada, you're a denier and you should be thrown in jail. That's what she said. From APTN, this is the Aboriginal People's Television Network. Survivor-led event in Winnipeg pays tribute to the lost birthdays of Kamloops Residential School. There's Wob Canoe there, the cry bully himself, the one who was barking like a dog in a parliamentary committee meeting while the leader of the opposition was speaking, trying to ask him questions just a few days ago, barking like a dog, laughing at him. That's who Wabkanu really is, by the way. This year, Vivian Ketchum celebrated her birthday by wishing more than 200 others a happy birthday instead. This was because the residential school survivor's birthday coincided with the 5th anniversary of the discovery of 215 anomalies. Notice they're now saying anomalies, not bodies, that are suspected to be unmarked graves near the former grounds of a residential school in Kamloops. Are they, though? We don't suspect them to be anything. And you want to know why? Because no excavations have ever happened. The federal government took $13 million of our dollars, gave it to the Kamloops Indian band for excavation purposes. 3 or 4 years ago. No excavation has ever been done, but the money was spent somehow. Interesting, don't you think? Property rights is another big one. People in British Columbia are very concerned because of all of these First Nations property claims that they're going to lose their home. The government says, well, we're fighting it in court. But they're not really. They've instructed their lawyers, according to the Conservative Party of Canada, to not fight this so hard. Appeal it, but not really. Because they actually believe, the Liberal government of Canada, and of course the NDP government in British Columbia, that a piece of land can have 2 owners. I don't know if that's really true. What about a hockey team? Let's just say a professional sports franchise, NFL team. You've got one owner, Bob Jones, who owns the Las Vegas Raiders. And then you've got another owner, let's call him Harry Highfeather. They both legally own the team, but they make contrary decisions to each other. How's that going to work, really? No, one entity, one owner. But they're trying to make you, it's amazing. They're trying to make you believe, no, we can have 2 owners. It's all right. You can have, First Nations own it, and you can own it as well. And the city and, the province as well. So they were talking about it in committee today. Aaron Gunn is a Conservative MP from Vancouver Island. He was asking some questions of the Housing Minister, Gregor Robertson, today. But what I want you guys to see more than anything in this clip is the final 15 or 20 seconds. This is about a 2-minute clip. The look on Aaron Gunn's face is priceless when you know who pipes up with a point of order. Watch this.
Do you believe the right to private property is a fundamental human right?
Through the chair. Well, first and foremost, I do believe that housing is a human right. And here in Canada, private property it has been, I think, protected for generations.
Okay.
And that is what, obviously, a topic that's come up a lot in these recent months.
Of course, especially in British Columbia, as I'm sure you know. Do you believe Aboriginal title should and can exist on top of or in conjunction with existing fee simple title of individual homeowners?
Through the chair, I think we've seen to date no challenge to private property as a result of Aboriginal rights and title. And I think there's been a lot of fear-mongering lately that is saying that.
But Minister, do you believe that Aboriginal title should and can exist in conjunction with the fee simple title of individual homeowners?
Through the chair, I think that they have coexisted to date here in Canada without issue.
They have coexisted. Okay, Aboriginal title. So why are you? On what basis are you appealing the Cowichan decision then?
Through the chair, I am not appealing the Cowichan decision personally. The Government of Canada is appealing alongside the province of BC and the city of Richmond and several First Nations.
Was that not the part of
the decision that
these word games make me want to vomit that these politicians play, man. We're the ones paying them to do it.
that was made?
But was the part of the decision that led to the appeal not the fact that the judge ruled that Aboriginal title is existing in conjunction with fee simple title on the private property of homeowners?
Through the chair. So to be very clear, I'm here to talk about the budget estimates.
Then why are you appealing the Cowichan decision if it's not a big deal?
Again, through the chair, I am not appealing the Cowichan decision.
Why is your government appealing?
The government of Canada is appealing, and you can ask the Minister of Justice if you want a rationale. It is well documented.
So you don't think? Okay, so that's fine. So you believe that on the appeal, it doesn't really matter whether we win or lose as far as it concerns individual homeowners. You believe there's no threat to their private property, to their title, irrespective of what happens on the appeal. And on one hand, you stand
Point of
up
order.
and make.
Point of order.
Chair, the minister has been clear that he is not appealing. And
Look who it is there. Can you see who that is? On the left side of your screen, 1, 2, 3, 4 people up. That's Marilyn Gladue. Oh, we got to go back and see that again. Aaron Gunn doing a great job questioning Gregor Robertson, but then point of order.
You believe that on the appeal, it doesn't really matter whether we win or lose as far as it concerns individual homeowners. You believe there's no threat to their private property, to their title, irrespective of what happens on the appeal. And on one hand, you stand
Point of
up
order.
and make.
Point of order.
Chair, the minister has been clear that he is not appealing, and it is the government of Canada that is appealing.
Thank you.
The woman without a soul, Marilyn Gladue. I'm going to do one more story before we leave tonight, you guys, because you know what? It's been 2 hours and 20 minutes already. Time has flown by so fast tonight, and so very happy to have had Tamara on tonight, Tamara Lich on the show, and hopefully you guys can find something to contribute to her court case. She's fighting back. She wants to make it so that no Canadians are ever harmed by a malicious prosecution ever again. She's able to set a precedent for that. The government will have to really look at what they're doing before they try anything again, like they tried on her and succeeded on her and on Chris Barber and Pat King and others. So givesendgo.com and then just type in Tamara Lich into the search bar. If you don't have the link in the comments, you should. But if you don't, Michael, could you put it in the comments for all of the different social media platforms? Not too much to ask, right? At least Facebook and maybe X and Rumble and YouTube. Thank you for that. And before we get to this last story, it's bizarre. Completely bizarre. Something I've been following for the last couple or 3 days, and no real answers to it yet. Hopefully something will happen soon, and maybe something did happen during the show the last couple of hours I wasn't able to see. Before we get to this story, I want to ask you guys to go ahead and follow me here on Substack. This is my Substack where I post the audio version of the show every single night. So you may not be able to see it, may not be able to see the clips or me, but at least you can listen to the show on Substack. So there it is right there. Substack, Shadoe Davis, ShadoeDavis, all one word, .substack.com. It costs you nothing. It's absolutely free. Go ahead and follow me on Substack. And if you haven't got a Substack account, go ahead and get one because there's all kinds of great, Tamara's on there, right? You can get the Bureau on there. That's Sam Cooper's thing. Hard Pressed North. That great new writer. Chrissy Bremney. She's fantastic. She was on the show last week, and we put that one out on all the social media too. So if you missed that, you can go back and watch it. You can find it on my Facebook or on my YouTube. I'm pretty much at Shadoe Davis on everything. And then here, this is the big one. This is the website where you guys can see the show every single night. Weeknights, 8 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Mountain, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. But you need to become an all-access member. You can do that monthly or you can do that yearly. You get a better deal if you buy the whole year package. ShadoeDavis.com. Become an all-access member. And then don't forget to join the Telegram group, the Shadoe at Night community on Telegram. That's where everybody chats while the show is on, regularly speaking. But again, we do come out and do these shows when we have a guest like Tamara every couple of weeks or so. Okay, this is from the NIH, the National Library of Medicine. Why am I showing you this? Because the name here, right here, is Nicholas Jordan Wagter. Apparently, this young man is a genius. But there's something else happening with Nicholas Jordan Wagter, and we'll get to that in just a second. What this is an abstract on super special relativity. So he's written the paper. The paper proposes a new theoretical framework for understanding time perception centered on information processing in the brain. We introduce the concept of perceptual time as distinct from inertial clock time and develop a model relating perceptual time experience to the brain's computational capacity and information processing rate. This framework explains phenomena like time dilation and compression during intense experiences in terms of neural information processing, bridging perceptual time with physical theories of time. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I just wanted you guys to understand that this kid wrote a paper on this stuff, and apparently it's quite good. Maybe he's directly over the target, just kind of hovering there. Now, a couple of things have happened with Nicholas Jordan Wagter over the past month. He's been taken in by Vancouver police under a psych hold, 48-hour psych hold, because he was assessed at a distance by a doctor, psychiatrist, on the recommendation of his family. We understand. Nicholas's family, not the doctors. Some crazy behavior, allegedly, which is out of character for Nicholas. Now, Nicholas has made some videos, you may have seen these on his Instagram, about a guy named Alex Rocket, who Nicholas claims to be a Ukrainian agent who is able to manipulate people's brains somehow, and also able to manipulate electronics and computers, and was somehow able to control for a brief period of time the traffic lights in the greater Toronto area. So what Nicholas did was, now this is according to my understanding and everything that I've looked into, what Nicholas, and this is only a month ago, what Nicholas did was drove this Alex Rocket out of his apartment. Don't know exactly how he did it, but he got him out. So there was a video that was posted all over X of the police actually making the stop on Nicholas and telling him that, no, you're not going to make an appointment with a doctor. At our recommendation, we're taking you in now, and you're going to spend the next couple of days with us. But before that, this is about a month ago, this video comes from his Instagram. He's just walking down the street with a backpack, and he's approached by a police officer. Watch this.
The Irish Consulate General was having...
Just gonna check what's in your backpack.
No, hey man, you can't do that. That's against my rights.
Don't walk away.
Okay, now, the cop says, I want to see what's in your backpack. That's illegal search and seizure. That is against the law in Canada under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Let's continue.
Hey, whoa. Dude, you can't do that. I haven't done anything wrong. What have I done wrong? Dude, I haven't done anything. You can't search me. That's my right. That's my right as a...
Chill out. Listen, chill out.
Well, then why are you... Okay.
Relax.
Okay. Am I under arrest?
Yes, you are. You're being detained.
I'm being...
Yes.
I am?
Yes,
for what?
Are. I'll explain everything.
No, just please tell me what I'm being detained or arrested for.
Okay. They said that you might have a bomb with you. Okay?
I don't have a bomb with me.
Well, that's what we're checking right now. Okay?
You're not allowed to... Whoa! Hey!
They said you might have a bomb. So, I mean, that's no evidence that he does. I mean, you could say that about anybody, right? I mean, I could say that to a guy who's standing next to me in a bank. He's got a bomb. But I might be the crazy one. So this is wrong on so many levels. I think this cop needs to be arrested. And Nicholas, if he doesn't have a lawyer, needs to get one. Now, this is kind of a weird piece of the video that Nicholas put together. This looks like a parking garage or something, or maybe some traffic flow. Don't know where.
Just fucking attacked by the Vancouver police. I was put on the ground. I was not resisting arrest and was repeatedly hit in the head and my face shoved on the ground. Ears swollen. A bunch of fucking cuts. That police officer needs to be fired. That police officer needs to be punished. There need to be real sentences, like criminal sentences, for assaulting somebody who is not resisting arrest. Thankfully, I'm fine. I'm going to keep going. I'm not shook. To all the other police officers who are good, I'm trying my best to defend you guys. I'm trying my best, but police officers, pieces of fucking garbage like that are making it real hard.
All right, so let me take you back to the beginning of this here. Does this guy even look like a cop to you?
What have I done wrong? Dude, I haven't done anything. You can't search me. That's my right. That's my right as a
Chill out, listen, chill out.
Well then
We're
why
just gonna have a chat.
Okay.
Relax.
Okay. Am I under arrest?
Yes, you are. You're being detained.
I'm being
Yes.
I am?
Yes.
For
you
what?
are. I'll explain everything.
No, I just please tell me what I'm being detained or arrested for.
Okay. They said that you might have a bomb with you. Okay?
I don't have a bomb with me.
Well, that's what we're checking right now.
All right, so we go through the video. We do not see the beating, the alleged beating that this cop put on him. Then we see this part of the video where Nicholas is showing us his marks. I don't know, you guys. I mean, there's so many pieces to this puzzle that we're trying to put together, and there's many pieces that are missing as well. I think we might be being swerved here. I don't know. I've just got a feeling, and my feelings are usually pretty good with this stuff, but I think that there's something made up about this. But here he is. You can follow him on Instagram if you choose to. Nicholas_Jordan_Wagter. His followers have gone up 3,000 since this afternoon. He says, "Let me the F out of here. All psychiatrists refuse to watch the video." All the videos are here. The one that I just showed you is this one here, which is pinned at the top. I'm trying to find out, and this is one from inside his psych hold here. This one is the one where the cops stop him and take him in. The Alex Rocket stuff is a little bit further down. I don't know. But again, I mean, I like I said, I only just started really digging into this in the last couple of days. So there's a lot of stuff I might be missing. Maybe you guys have done more digging than I have. Either way, I'm not going to say what this really is because I don't know. We need more information to come out before we can make a determination like that. And there's one thing I want to leave you with here. I know I said that was going to be the last thing, but you know what? I just don't want to say goodbye. So one more thing tonight. I ran across this guy, another guy on Instagram. Let me see if I can find it here. His name is Polity Bible on Instagram. Now, I know it sounds religious. And some of his stuff may be, I don't know. But he did some brilliant videos on digital ID. I've put them all together. This is about a 9 to 10 minute piece here. And again, Polity Bible on Instagram. So Instagram, go to Instagram, become a member at Instagram. If you're not, get an Instagram account. Follow Nicholas Jordan Wagter. Follow Polity Bible. Follow me at Shadoe Davis. Get on Instagram. Get on all the social media you possibly can. The government's going to try and take it away from you. This is how you gather information. But again, you've got to use your discernment, guys. You got to dig into it. You got to use your gut. Say, wait a minute. This seems kind of shady to me. I need more information. But this guy here, he reminded me of Mark Friesen. Have a look.
Some who still don't understand what digital ID is all going to encompass. I have a whole map out here of everything that digital ID will entail. But before we get there, let me go through the 3 rules of totalitarian control, okay? Because digital ID is leading to totalitarian control, all right? So the first rule is every power that government takes from us, it will never relinquish control voluntarily, ever, okay? Every power that they take from us, they will ultimately abuse to the maximum extent possible. We know this. You know that when you give the government an inch, they take a mile to 5 to 10 miles. The third one, nobody in history has ever complied their way out of totalitarian control. You have to resist. You have to not comply. And now here's a breakdown of everything going on with digital ID, okay? This is why digital ID is important, all right? So I'll just take down this first section right here. So we got digital ID, everything springs off of digital ID, all right? Your first one is gonna be all identity and biometrics, your name, your date of birth, your gender, your social security number, your citizenship, facial recognition and fingerprinting, iris and retina scan, voice print, your gait, how you walk, and your behavioral biometrics, okay? Location and behavior, you will always be tracked. Your GPS location trails, historical and real time, travel history, mobility patterns, browsing history on the web, your app usage, your purchase and transaction behaviors. Are you buying something that isn't allowed? Are you buying a gun? Are you buying ammo? Are you buying too much meat? This can be controlled. Your health and medical records, right? Your electronic health records, your immunization and vaccine records, your prescriptions, lab results, health credentials, your immunity certificates, government and civil records, your driver's license, birth certificate, passport, voter registration, immigration and visa status, court records, criminal records. Everything will be tied to your digital ID. Access and permissions, building access, whether you can get in and out of a building with a digital ID, right? Even a grocery store. Some of the biggest grocery stores are owned by the largest corporations, and they will comply with this. Age, gating restrictions, eligibility for services, employment access. Remember Keir Starmer, you will not be able to work or have a job unless you have digital ID, employment access. All of your online accounts, your usernames, passwords, keys, your emails, your single sign-on tokens, your phone numbers, your multi-factor authentications, your financial and economic records, your bank accounts, your payment methods, your tax records, benefits and subsidy eligibility, digital wallets, blockchain anchors, your loans, your credit score, your transaction history, educational and professional, your diplomas, transcripts, your professional licenses, your certifications, your employment history, your background check, your LLCs, your contracts, your e-signatures, and your notarizations. Down here, it gets even more important, just like China, your social credit, all right, your risk scores, your trust and reputation metrics, your aggregated profiles built by analytics, your peer-to-peer rating system, and your corporation and business rating system on you. So corporations and businesses will be able to rate you. So will your own peers be able to rate you. Social credit, just like Yelp, you'll be the product. You'll have your 5-star review of who you are. Is digital ID the mark of the beast? This is a comment and discussion that I've seen come up a lot in the videos that I've been doing. And so let's go through it and take a look. The mark of the beast comes out of Revelation, the book of Revelation in the Bible, chapter 13, verses 16 and 17. And it's talking about the Antichrist here, the beast. And he, the beast, causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And he provides that no one will be able to buy or to sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. And of course, we all know that number, which is 666. So look, I'm not an eschatology expert. I'm not going to pretend to be. Anytime you dive into end times theology, especially in the Christian sphere, you're going to find dozens upon dozens of different opinions and arguments whether everything took place already, whether some of it took place and some still has to come, or all of it still has to come, or it's all literary metaphor. I'm not going to get into it. We're just going to go right from the word, what it says, what digital ID is, and what's happening. The key here, the point that the Apostle John is making, is that the mark of the beast is idolatrous loyalty or worship of the Antichrist, the beast system. Let's look at the Greek, right? So the English word is mark. The Greek word is charagma. I'm probably butchering that. Charagma means stamp, impression, mark, or seal. We see this on the old Roman coins where Caesar put his image on it. Remember, Jesus held up the Roman coin and said, whose image is on here? The people answered Caesar. So he said, give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God's. So this mark, the charagma, was commonly used for imprints on documents or coins to designate who it came from or who it belonged to. So that's what the mark is. You are accepting a mark on yourself, according to Revelation, that would identify you with the Antichrist or the beast system. Basically, this lines out a biblical warning about the mark. It's deeply rooted in the realities of economic control and allegiance to the ruling powers. That's what the mark of the beast seems to point to in Revelation. Now, digital ID, I think, is the infrastructure for complete surveillance and total control over the world population. They aren't shy about explaining their agenda, the Agenda 2030, the digital ID, putting all of these railways together that connects everything you do, say, who you are, into one digital ID so that they can control your access to things. What do I mean by that? They want total surveillance over you. They want to know where you're going and when, to map out your daily habits. They want to know what you buy, how much you buy, how often you buy it. They want to track what you say and do online, so that's all recorded. They want to know who you associate with. They want to know your social credit, like your social credit score, et cetera, et cetera. It's full-on surveillance of everything you are. The next part is they want to be able to control your access to buy and sell. They want to be able to control your access to healthcare. They want to be able to control your access to work. Remember Keir Starmer?
You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have digital ID.
They want to control your access to bank accounts. If you do or say something they don't like, that the regime in power doesn't like, they can shut you down from your bank account access. And of course, they want to control your access overall to the marketplace, the economy, the financial systems, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes down to digital ID, they are looking for full control and surveillance of you, and buying and selling is one of those. So is digital ID right now the mark of the beast? I would say no, not quite, but it is laying the groundwork that in the future, this infrastructure can definitely be used by a coming Antichrist figure. It would come and use this digital ID system to implement the mark of the beast. It's completely possible. I think digital ID will condition people to accept digital compliance in order to access the marketplace, public services, financial system, things like that. I want to personally avoid taking on a digital ID or getting accustomed to that, because I do think it is a precursor to the mark of the beast. If you put your passport info as a digital identification credential on your iPhone right now, is that the mark of the beast? No. In the UK, if you signed up for a digital ID because you had to work, is that necessarily the mark of the beast right now? No. Because again, the mark of the beast requires some kind of heart allegiance, some kind of idolatrous worship of an Antichrist figure or of a beast worldly system. I don't think we're there yet, but the groundwork is laid. The infrastructure is here that it could be coming in the near future. 5 years ago, the WEF told us that by 2030, we would own nothing. That is all tied into the UN Agenda 2030, which digital ID is one of those things that is tied into that agenda. But in 5 years, how have we gone from ownership of things to steadily moving towards non-ownership? Well, the first thing we can see here is in homes. Home ownership, a lot of people have been priced out. Ownership in general of homes has remained flat over the last 5 years. Meanwhile, rent has skyrocketed and it has gone up by 5.6 million over the last 5 years. So rent is increasing, home ownership staying flat, and will eventually start to decline. They'll price people out. Right now, the younger generation that should be owning homes, Gen Z, has been priced out, and they are the largest generation ever to be renting. That's your big ticket item. Everything else has started moving to a subscription-based model, if you've noticed. In the past, we used to own certain things. We used to just buy them at the store and have the actual media in hand, but now it's all subscription. Cars are starting to do this. Toyota, Mercedes, BMW, they're starting to create subscription services for features in their cars. Farming equipment, John Deere, they will shut down the software in a John Deere tractor if you don't have the subscription service to have their men, their mechanics fix it when it breaks down. Printers, HP has an ink subscription program. If you got that ink and it's in the printer and you canceled your subscription, your printer will stop working. The other things that we have, movies and music, that is all moved to streaming services. They can remove things that you purchased because it's all held in their cloud, not in your own hands. We no longer have CDs, DVDs. It's all digital based. Gaming systems, the new Switch 2, they can shut you down if they don't like what you're doing. So you won't have access to your games if they don't like what you're doing. Software, you used to be able to own software like your Adobe Creative Suite, Quicken, Microsoft Office. All of that, again, is moved to subscription. You don't own the software anymore, but you pay to use it regularly. Ebooks, all on Kindle. In 2009, Amazon took off George Orwell's books, and so if you had even purchased the digital version, it was just gone from your library. These kind of things is what Agenda 2030 is all about. And with the digital ID, they can shut you down. They can shut you out of any of this kind of access. So there it is, incremental steps to owning nothing and making you a regular slave, paying regularly in order to use these services that we used to just buy once and have in hand. Combine that with digital ID. You step on a line on social media, you do something that they don't like, they can shut you down now on any of these services as well. This is the agenda. This is where they're going. This is how we will own nothing.
Politi Bible on Instagram. You guys go follow him. You know, it's interesting. We're all waiting for a moment that we're going to recognize, a moment that we may have been imagining for a long time now. What's it going to look like with Agenda 2030? But it doesn't happen like that. It happens gradually. It happens over time. It happens so you don't notice it until one day you're walking down the street and your car, you get into your car, and it doesn't start. Why won't it start? Must be something wrong with it. No, it's something you said. Something you said on Facebook alerted, because it's all in your digital ID, alerted the government or whichever overhead mind is controlling us, probably AI by then. And your car won't start. I don't know what the remedy to that would be. Can you appeal? It's AI by that point. You know, some of these people who used to do programming for Google and other big tech companies who have been around AI for some time have been looking at its growth and seeing how fast it's going, and are going on YouTube channels now, doing interviews, discussing how alarmed they are that pretty soon everything is going to be run by artificial intelligence. And that opens up several cans of worms, doesn't it? So I guess the only thing I can advise you to do right now is don't ever sign up for any kind of digital ID, whether it's government or corporate, because it's all the same thing now. That was the World Economic Forum, right? Public-private partnerships. The fourth industrial revolution. Don't do it. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I thank you for your support. I thank you for being here tonight. Don't forget to sign up at shadoedavis.com to become an all-access member. You can do that either monthly or yearly. Also, don't forget to sign up for my Substack, shadoedavis.substack.com, if you want to get for free the audio version of the show every night. Don't forget to go to givesendgo.com. When you go to GiveSendGo, you're going to get a search page. In the search page, type in Tamara Lich. Her campaign will come up immediately, and then you can help her in her fight against wrongful persecution. Obviously was targeted. She feels as though her lawyers can prove that, and hopefully they can win this, but she's not going to be able to do it without us. So please make a contribution to help Tamara. Man, that's a girl, one of the good ones. One of the good ones. She's not giving up. She's still fighting. Have a great night tonight, you guys. Have a great day tomorrow, and I will talk to you all Access Nighthawks again in the Telegram group and on the website tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central. Love you all. See you soon. Bye for now.